Round has been Bobby Carpenter. Last year, between three teams, Washington, New York, and Los Angeles, he scored a total of 9 goals. This year, he has 10 already and is on Bernie Nichols' left side. That is really their big line with Carpenter and Nichols. The toughest spot, I guess, for the Kings and the most unenviable position, however, is that of goal. You never know what kind of support you're going to get. Tonight, the Kings will go with Rolly Melanson, who is 13-4-2 lifetime against Winnipeg. We'll have to wait and see what kind of support he gets from his defense tonight.
The Jets have prided themselves on defense. They've had a lot of trouble with that, so now they've got to lean on offense. A couple of pretty good guys there.
Yeah, the only through threads that they've had in their organization in the last 6 years that they could count on have been Dale Hawerchuk and Paul McLean. Hawerchuk has led the Winnipeg Jets in scoring for 6 straight seasons, and McLean seems to be the only other player on the team that's capable of scoring 30 goals, and he plays on Hawerchuk's right side. So once again tonight, because they can't keep the puck out of the net lately, they're going to have to rely on Hawerchuk and McLean to score some goals for them.
Great weather in Los Angeles. Temperature outside today, 69. Inside the Forum here at 72. The temperature on the ice, 6 degrees, Tom.
All right, Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement look forward to a very entertaining game tonight from Los Angeles. Well, unfortunately, the hockey world was saddened on Tuesday with the passing of former coach and general manager George Punch Imlach. The 69-year-old Hall of Famer died following a third severe heart attack at his home last Sunday. Now, Imlach was associated with the game for some 50 years. The glory years for Punch Imlach were in Toronto from 1958 through 69, where he led the Maple Leafs to 4 Stanley Cups after a career playing for Quebec in the minor leagues. He later moved on to pilot the expansion Buffalo Sabres in 1970. Imlach retired from the game in 1981, was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1984. George Punch Imlach, dead at the age of 69.
You can hear the understandable pride when modern brewers talk about the time they spend brewing their beers, or the time they spend lagering them. True, this reflects effort and care. But for Budweiser, some things take even more time. Like waiting for a big beechwood tree to grow from a small beechwood tree. For all the years past, and the years to come, this is the kind of time and the kind of care that go into your beer. Beechwood aged Budweiser.
Every Sunday, the players take notes and the coaches listen in when Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, and Pete Axthelm deliver the day's most exhaustive the NFL, Sundays on ESPN.
During World War II, an amazing experiment was conducted by our combat cameraman, color photography. And it's all captured in Colors of War, the rarest of the rare war films assembled for the first time in this 2-volume video cassette collection. Be there with the Marines at Tarawa, unforgettable and winner of the Academy Award. Then go to the shores of Iwo Jima, a stunning Oscar nominee. Order now and you'll ride along in the tank convoy and witness the Nazis' attack. Colors of War, 4 complete subjects, 2 volumes for only $29.95 complete. Not sold in stores. Satisfaction guaranteed. Call our 24-hour hotline now.
To order your 2-volume set by credit card, call 1-800-331-1000 or send $29.95 plus $3 shipping and handling to Colors of War, 1245B 10th Street, Monterey, California 93940. Be sure to specify VHS or Beta.
The NHL on ESPN is being brought to you by Volvo, a car you can believe in. And by Bud Light. Everything else is just alike. And by Makita. Well, before we go to the fabulous Forum in Los Angeles for tonight's game between the Winnipeg Jets and the LA Kings, the Vancouver Canucks were in action earlier tonight, and they came up a winner against the Quebec Nordiques. The final from Le Colisée. Vancouver wins it by a score of 3-1. So as of this moment, the LA Kings are officially in the basement of the Smythe Division. They have to win tonight to tie up again with the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver right now only a point behind the Winnipeg Jets. As far as other action at the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland, interesting game between the Edmonton Oilers and the Washington Capitals. because Washington just seems to have Edmonton's number, and they did it again tonight. One of the goals coming from a man who almost lost his eye a few nights ago, Bengt Gustafsson. A 2-on-1 Capitals break. Gustafsson fakes the pass, takes the shot, beats Grant Fuhr on a seemingly easy play, low to the glove side. That tied the game at 1, and Gustafsson got another goal as well later on in the evening. So Bengt Gustafsson and the Capitals beat the Edmonton Oilers by a score of 4-2. The Oilers are just a .500 hockey team on the road, friends, and right now they're in second place in the Smythe Division, a point behind Calgary, and they will stay that way at least for tonight. Also tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs on the road in Minneapolis. Don't know if they ordered pizza before or after the game, but let's take a look at some of the highlights of this game that's still going on at the Met Center. Greg Terrion of Toronto finds Al Iafrate, who's being pumped for the Norris Trophy this year, if you can believe that. Iafrate scores his 13th of the season to give Toronto a 2-0 lead. Second period, 2-0 Toronto. Brian Lawton dishing to Dirk Graham from Minnesota, and Herb Brooks' team gets on the board. And the score right now is in the third period with Toronto leading the Minnesota North Stars by a score of 2-1. And up next, let's take a look at the Smythe Division standings up to the minute. You will see that it's not the Edmonton Oilers on top anymore, at least at this point. It is the Calgary Flames who have been playing very, very well indeed. They came into tonight's action with a 1-point lead over the Edmonton Oilers, and they still have it as a result of Edmonton's loss at Washington. It is Calgary with 31 points, Edmonton 30. You see Winnipeg only 1 point now ahead of Vancouver, only 3 points ahead of Los Angeles. The Winnipeg Jets had the 6th best record in hockey last year. They've taken a nosedive to number 13 overall this season. They're one of the true disappointments of the National Hockey League so far this year. And they're only 3 points ahead of the LA Kings, as I mentioned. And tonight is the first of a 2-game series in Los Angeles. Winnipeg will also be at the Forum on Thursday night as well. We'll be back with more of the NHL on ESPN. The Kings and the Winnipeg Jets coming your way next, right after these words.
There's a town where the assembly line mentality does not exist, where craftsmanship is revered, where precision is a way of life, a town where the largest occupation is that of car maker. The town is Kalmar, Sweden, the only place in the world where this car could be built. The new Volvo 760.
All right. Well, welcome back to the NHL on ESPN. I'm Tom Mees, your studio host tonight, and we're just about set for the national anthem at the Fabulous Forum before the LA Kings take on the Winnipeg Jets. So without further ado, let's go out to the Forum in Los Angeles, where the Jets and Kings are about ready to open up a 2-game series. And let's see what happens. Will the Winnipeg Jets get on the right track? They have a woeful road record, or will the LA Kings come up with a win tonight?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, well, well. David Powell with his distinctive version of the Star-Spangled Banner. The goaltenders for the game tonight will be the same two that have been in prior games. The referee, the man of many stories, Paul Stewart, Mark Vines, and Brad Lazarowicz, the linesman. Vines in his 4th year, Lazarowicz his 2nd, and Stewart in his 2nd. Eldon Pokey Reddick, with 5 wins and 5 losses and a record against the Kings of 4-3-0, will be in the nets for the Winnipeg Jets. And Rolly the goalie, Roland Melanson, with a Kings record against Winnipeg of 5-2-0.
Yeah, both of these goalies have played both games that each team has played against one another. They have split. Reddick is 1-1. Melanson is 1-1 against Winnipeg.
Howard Chuck McLean and Ian Duncan is the left winger on that line. And very quickly the Kings see a dump in by Winnipeg and a shift change, as Dan Maloney did not want the combination out there against the King starting unit of Nichols, Fox, and Carpenter, put there by that man, Mike Murphy.
You know, this is the 2nd game in a row that we've had on ESPN from L.A. Last week we had Bob Murdoch out here coaching the Chicago Blackhawks. He's an ex-teammate of Mike Murphy. This week we have Dan Maloney, who's also an ex-L.A. King and an ex-teammate of Mike Murphy. It just seems that week after week, more L.A. Kings come back to play against Mike Murphy's teams. And there's an incredible number of people who have played for this L.A. Kings team that went on to be coaches, something like 12 or 14 in the last half a dozen to 10 years.
And 8 of them were all together at one time here. Perhaps we'll get a moment to deal with that, but first it is Fox losing, and ahead with it now comes Duncan. Duncan at center ice, tied up, but the loose puck is sent in off the stick of Mario Marois and handled by Melanson. Steve Duchesne, outstanding 2nd-year player on defense for the Kings, drops it back in. We see a lot of line juggling early here, Bill.
Sure, Dan Maloney pulled Howard Chuck's line off so we could get Boschman out there against Nichols, and as soon as Dan Maloney saw that, he pulled off Nichols. Or at least Howard Chuck. They're just changing left and right. Winnipeg should match up better defensively against any line that L.A. puts out there because they're a better defensive hockey team in spite of their record of late. I'm not sure that Mike Murphy really has a line he can put out there to check Dale Howard Chuck. He might go offense against offense.
Here is McLean. Backhander hit the outside of the goal after that one got through Melanson. Rebound out in front, and it is scooped up by McBean, the 1st-year man on defense. Pass clicked off the stick of Jim Fox and goes down. And to take it is Robitaille. Sends one along that is drilled well off the mark by Carson. Just arriving at defense, but not able to hold in, was Larry Playfair. You know, at one time, Bob Fulford was coaching here in 73-74. They had Barry Long, Bob Berry, Bob Murdoch, Butch Goring, Terry Harper, Dan Maloney, Mike Murphy. Vachon was here, and all of them went on to coach later or be in management.
I asked Bob Murdoch why. Well, that's an unusually high number. He said, we just weren't good enough. We had to be smart because we were such terrible hockey players. So they went for the brains and not the skills here in Los Angeles. They always had a representative team, always had a team that could check. That's, I'm sure, what's so frustrating for a lot of people that have seen these Kings over the years and have come and supported and followed them. They can't keep other teams off the scoreboard in the last few years. At one time, they were very strong defensively.
It is the Nichols line out once again, and Hardy has trouble. And so the play has to be made by Duchesne. And Hardy seems to be the target of Bluebirds here. On with it is Fox. Dropping in. Has to get it Taglianetti. Reaching is Neufeld. Nichols and Neufeld. And it's kicked along, but away from Taglianetti. Fox to the point for a drive by Duchesne. That's wide. Neufeld flips. But we get a shift change again for Winnipeg, and Melanson will handle to Duchesne. Is there anything in particular we should watch for in the Kings' attack as they move to the line?
Well, they very seldom dump the puck in. They don't have a team that's really well built for forechecking, so they perhaps attack the blue line more than any other team in the NHL. And Mike Murphy told me last week that we get turned back more than any team in the NHL as well.
2 minutes, 2 seconds gone. First period, no score.
There is a town where the assembly line mentality does not exist, where craftsmanship is revered, where precision is a way of life. A town where the largest occupation is that of car maker. The town is Kalmar, Sweden, the only place in the world where this car could be built. The new Volvo 760.
Lazarowicz about to drop the puck. We mentioned the youth of this officiating corps tonight. Lazarowicz, 25. Mark Vines, the other linesman, 27. And Paul Stewart, 32. And virtually anyone around hockey now can see one of the blossoming personalities in the game in Paul Stewart. Parents watching tonight from near Boston. Puck played right back along by Fenton. Checked down at the line. Gets up slowly. As ahead with it now comes Carlisle, and Fenton is hurt. Comes to the Los Angeles bench, and Robitaille hops over the boards as this play that you're watching is being made by the one-time Ranger Grant Ledyard. Ledyard hands on now to Playfair. Stripped to the puck by Amel. In comes Amel. Cranks one into Melanson. Playfair without a stick glove. Barry with a shot. Sprawling in front. And Steen is able to tap it home. And the Winnipeg Jets get on the board first. 17:23 to go in the opening period. Thomas Steen collects his sixth.
Well, you know, this will go into Larry Playfair's scrapbook of life's most embarrassing moments. Gilles Hamel is the player that stripped Playfair of the puck in the neutral zone, and he did that with a slash. This is after the fact. Now, Playfair's coming back in to try and defend without a stick. Good save by Melanson, coming down to cut down the angle. Melanson still has pretty good position. Here comes an end-over-ender from the point that ends up, well, look at the crowd that Melanson has in front of him. There's Playfair trying to get back with no stick. Steen took 2 or 3 whacks at it. It almost looked as if he wasn't going to get it across the line, but the Kings were a man short because Playfair lost his stick out in the neutral zone.
This time the Kings dump in, and it is played right back out by the Jets. So going back to get it is McBean on defense. Forced by Amel. Puck up the boards, but chucked at and kept along momentarily by the defense of Brad Barry. I noticed that time that the Kings drove in, but very quickly Winnipeg got the puck, sent it right back out again. Now in the dump and chase type of game, Bill, you need the big wingers that are going to be the guys that are muscling it out in the corners. Do you feel the Kings have that?
No, I don't. That's why I said that they're not tailor-made for a forechecking style. You take a look at guys like Bernie Nichols, Luc Robitaille, Jimmy Fox. They're not big, punishing wingers. And let's face it, the defensemen in general are much bigger than your average forward. So anytime LA comes to the Winnipeg blue line and dumps it in, they need to have a little bit of muscle. You just can't rely on speed to get into the corners and turn the puck back over. I think it's out of necessity that they try and beat people at the blue line because they just don't have the muscle to go in and forecheck in deep.
Dan Maloney, big, tough, and uncompromising, like his general manager in Winnipeg, John Ferguson. From this face-off win for the Kings, Dean Kennedy must try a second time. Spins it to McBean. In case you're just joining us, we're glad to have you tonight on ESPN from the Forum in Inglewood, California. About half a house, we would guess, here tonight. They seat 16,000 to watch the Winnipeg Jets and the Los Angeles Kings. Loose puck. Fed over for Howard-Chuck's drive. That went off Kennedy. Howard-Chuck spins, but it's tipped back out by Kudelski. Big Jim Kite, hearing impaired, wearing those hearing aids. He has about 70% hearing loss. Puck played by Howard-Chuck and flipped right back along. It is guided to Kudelski, and it's followed up by Eriksson for the drop back in. Now, Kite will say that in visiting rinks, especially the ones that are noisy, and this is not one tonight, that he'll watch the glass when he goes back to make a play, just like you saw him do there. He picks up cues from watching the glass and getting reflections of players who might be behind him, because so often in noisy arenas, he just can't hear. Puck loose to the circle, and Nichols back to the point for Harvey's shot, and that calmly blocked away by Pokey Reddick. Duchesne must go back in for Los Angeles, and the forechecker is Jim Nill. Nill bothering Duchesne, so he must play to Hardy. Then it's outletted along to Jim Fox. Crisscrosses with Nichols. The feed is to Nichols, off balance while falling, and the shot swept away by Boschman, but kept in play by Fox. Nichols bumping with Taglianetti. Neufeld able to flip it out to Nill, handcuff Boschman.
That was a good example of the Bernie Nichols line losing the puck, just not being strong enough to get it back. Jimmy Fox was in deep, and Nichols was in deep. Carpenter's the best forechecker on that line, but the puck was in the other corner, so Winnipeg just turned it over and moved it out.
It's dumped along to Carlisle, fed back along the line, but Neufeld could not play it, and ahead with it comes Paul Fenton with a big drive. Shift change on in defense for Los Angeles. They'll make a change in forwards and are just trying to complete one as play is made too far up the wing for Duncan. Melanson sweeps. Taking it in stride is Sean McKenna. McKenna, one of the better checkers on this Los Angeles team. The drive, but knuckleballed on Reddick. And the puck slipped along by Ellett, but kept by Ledyard. Ellett just getting up from a check. Loose puck comes along where Bob Bourne is sealed up to the board by Brad Barry, and we get the first penalty call of the night and the first altercation. Looked looked as though there might be more, but there'll be peace here. But the first penalty call of the night from Paul Stewart, the referee. These at 5:39, elapsed time in the first period. The score, the Jets 1 and the Kings nothing.
Give me a light.
If you want the great taste of Bud Light, ask for it.
Bud Light!
Bud Light. Because everything else is just a light.
It's been a long day, big boy. Still got something left? Sure you do. Yeah. Sweetie, sweetie, you're whole wheat. Now go tell your mama what the big boys eat.
Barry off on a hold at 5:39.
You know, the line that was able to draw that penalty is perhaps the only line that can forecheck on this Los Angeles team with any success. There's Bobby Bourne, and he was held by Barry as they went into the boards. Los Angeles only has 3 forwards. Wow, did you see that hit behind Barry?
Man, oh man.
Barry Playfair just came in and cleaned somebody out. That wasn't the call. LA only has 3 forwards that are over 200 pounds. Joe Patterson is one. He's not playing tonight. Kudelski is another one, and Bobby Bourne is the third one. And Kudelski and Bourne play on the same line, so they are big enough and strong enough to go in and bang people off the puck.
The Los Angeles Kings with the 7th best power play in the league. Winnipeg 17th in defending against them. Winnipeg was the best in the league at doing that last year. Puck sent out of play. John Ferguson was saying, I don't know what kind of a team I have because I don't get to see them play. When I watch, it's always penalty killing or power play. He said, we were 21st in penalty killing 2 weeks ago. We went up to 16th. We didn't even play a game.
Well, it's one of those years for Winnipeg. They have great year, poor year, great year, poor year. And in the last 3 years, their point totals have varied by a total of 66. That's number 1 in the National Hockey League. Boston's totals have varied only 5, and they were the lowest. But Winnipeg had a great season 3 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago, they dipped right down to 59 points, up to 88 last year. It's just their turn to have a bad year.
Good unit out for Winnipeg right now. Ron Wilson and Doug Smale. And that duo, part of the reason that the Jets were the best in the league at penalty killing last year. And you see Smale tying up Mark Hardy. Puck flipped by Carson, kept by Marois, and the Kings have not gotten out of their own end.
That's a tough area to coach, too. Smale and Wilson are 2 of the best, and it's all instinct. You can ask any coach. That's the most difficult area of the ice to coach in, is forechecking when you're down a man. It's all instinct. Got to rely on the smarts.
Now it's Steen and McBain out, and they force Los Angeles back. Captain Dave Taylor leads the way with a pass for Carson. Carson with some room, forced behind on a diving play by Kite. Handling it is Carson. Looks it, then gives it to the back. To Carson once more from Hardy. At the front being worked over is Taylor as Carson fires a shot that's held by Reddick. 13:02 left in the first period, and more after the whistle.
Well, a couple of Frenchmen getting into it. That's Marois, number 22 for Winnipeg on the right. And Luc Robitaille, last year's Calder Trophy winner.
As peace is being restored here, let's go to Tom Mees.
Thank you very much, Mike Emmerich. In Bloomington, Minnesota, they're in the last minute of play. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Minnesota North Stars, with the Maple Leafs hanging on to a 2-1 lead. Let's join Peter Marr and Harry Neal for the concluding seconds of play.
Down by Terry and couldn't get a shot away. And screen for a penalty here. Cicerelli behind the goal for Payne. Payne icing him out front. Now it's taken by Broughton. Back to Wilson. The net is empty. 6 attackers out there for the North Stars. 28 seconds left. The shot blocked in front of the Leaf goal. Terrian can't clear it. Here's Cicerelli. The shot. And not able to convert it to the side of the net with Bellows. From the line. Broke his shot. Scores! The North Stars have tied the game. And 2-2. Brook with a shot from the blue line. Deflected in.
19 seconds to go. What an opportunity the North Stars missed when Cicerelli made a great pass through the crease to Bellows, and Bellows fanned on it. But I think Bellows, 23, look at the top of your screen here. Terrian can't get it out. Cicerelli trips Daoud, passes it over. Bellows misses it. Broughton gets it back to the point, and here's the goal. And I think Payne might have got a stick on it, or perhaps, no, it was 23 Bellows, who tipped it in. And you can see Cicerelli, 20 there. He almost jumps over the net. 19 seconds to go. The North Stars tie it up, and I can smell a little overtime.
Bellows with his 17th of the year. Brian Bellows with the goal that ties it.
Well, Brian Bellows with a bit of a dramatic goal. With 19:41 gone in the third period, just 19 seconds left in regulation, Bellows tips in the drive from the blue line, and Minnesota and Toronto look like they're going into overtime, and of course we'll bring you that final score when we can. Meanwhile, out in Los Angeles, the penalties have been handed out, and we'll rejoin the action between the Winnipeg Jets and the Los Angeles Kings, with the Jets leading it 1-0 as the NHL on ESPN continues right after these commercial words.
How well does your car stand up to heavy traffic?
Just as we return to action, there were no power plays resulting from the penalties, but even in full strength, the Winnipeg Jets have scored.
Well, the monster was created by the Los Angeles Kings. Dale Howardchuk, watch this pass. First of all, right onto the stick. I think it's Ian Duncan who moves it over to Dale Howardchuk. One times it, and the thing that hurts the Kings here is the deflection. One of the Kings, number 21, Wayne McBean, actually got a piece of it, but the big play right there, that's a suicide play if you ever want to see one. Howardchuk one times it, right over to the side of the net. Paul McLean there, so that leaves Duncan. It was Ian Duncan who was able to slip it over a Roland Melanson, who was down trying to save the first one. Well, all kinds of problems defensively already for the Kings.
Duncan's 6th goal in game number 13, and he'll collect more when he's on that line with Howardchuk and McLean. Icing touch-up stops the clock with 11:27 to go in the first. Duncan with his 6th goal. Steen earlier had his 6th. The lone assist on Steen's goal to Barry, and an assist on the goal by Duncan to Howardchuk.
You know, Mike, that's the kind of play from behind the net that a defenseman tries to make that you really have to analyze. The LA Kings have to take something like that, try and get an overview of it if they have a camera shooting it that shows them the whole zone, and figure out why a defenseman was trying to make a play that long. You don't have to make long passes, at least you shouldn't, in your own end. That's exactly what happens when you try and make that long play from behind the net way out to the blue line. You have to be triple sure, triple certain that nobody is even close to it, because it's so easy to cut. Guys just have time to react to the long ones.
From this face-off, it is Fenton trickling one for Bob Bourne. Now, we haven't forgotten the Toronto-Minnesota game. We'll be checking into that one during sudden death overtime. Boy, Toronto's got to wonder what it takes. They have lost the last 10 games, by my count, at Maple Leaf Gardens to the North Stars. And now they have a lead, and it goes asunder in the last 19 seconds of regulation time up at the Met Sports Center. 2 other games being played tonight. Those are finals. Tom will bring you up to date on all of that for those of you just joining us between periods. It is Melanson setting it up for Larry Playfair, just having recovered from a rebuilt knee. Playfair angles it back out, and this will force the Jets to chase, and meanwhile the Kings make a shift change. They will bring out Ken Hammond, and this time he'll be working with Carson and Kudelski. Play made back off Yarvenpaugh, just recalled from Moncton. Along now to Amel, and Amel flings one in on goal. Melanson turning it over to Kudelski. Very quiet form. They're upset here. Their team down by 2 and just 9.5 minutes having been played in the first period of action.
Talked about Larry Playfair and his knee. You know, this is the first game that I've seen, and I've watched them play a few of late, that Mike Murphy is letting Larry Playfair move back on defense. He had him up at left wing, so that stat that I had mentioned earlier about the forwards weighing 200 pounds, Playfair made it 4 forwards that weighed 200 pounds, but he's back in his normal position. Perhaps Larry Murphy wanted to just get him in top condition before he moved him back there. They need that toughness. Larry Playfair brings an element of toughness to this Los Angeles team that every team needs, and there really is a void in that department when he's not in the lineup.
I didn't get to see the game against Chicago that you telecast, Bill. Was there a lot of Los Angeles hitting in that game.
There was, and I watched part of the New Jersey game too. The game they tied 2-2, and it seems as if Los Angeles, like everybody, has more success when they hit, when they run into people out there. Tonight, I haven't seen the Los Angeles Kings touch anybody as yet. They're down 2-0. I wonder if Mike Murphy will give them the pep talk and say, guys, we've got to start banging into people out there. Get involved. That's what hitting does. It gets you involved in what's happening on the ice.
And there you just saw an example of it. Now here's a feed for Bernie Nichols across, tap in by Jim Fox, and the Kings are on the board with one.
That's that line that's not supposed to be able to forecheck. But if you start banging into people, you turn pucks back over. Bernie Nichols, you want to talk about cool? Watch this play. Fox to Nichols. Now, instead of shooting, Nichols draws Reddick way out of the net. Reddick's moving out.
Pretty.
That's real pretty. Somebody had to be a little lax, though. You know that as soon as Jimmy Fox passes that puck, he's going to be breaking for the net. Nobody from Winnipeg really turned around and took Fox out of the way, but excellent offensive play by Bernie Nichols. Boy, has he been hot since he's come back.
And the hottest of the Kings lately is out there with him now, and Bobby Carpenter just had an 11-point game string broken this past Sunday in the 2-2 tie with New Jersey. All right, Winnipeg gets the first two, and the Kings answer with one. Pivoting away with this is Nichols, took a high, hard hit from Carlisle, and the play followed back up by Laurie Boschman. Moving with Neufeld. Boschman has a tough checked away nicely by McKenna. Starts out with Carpenter. Big drive into the catching glove of Reddick. Jumped back off for the carry by Dave Ellett. Big defenseman for Winnipeg. Benton just moved right toward him, and that play broke down. 9 minutes, 5 seconds to go in the first period of play. It is Winnipeg leading the Los Angeles Kings 2-1. Yarvenpaugh trying to take it from the pack. It skipped right by him, and Melanson will make the play. And then a delayed offside is whistled down. The score in the game, Winnipeg 2, and the Los Angeles Kings 1.
Makita, the cordless power tool system more professionals use to work around the house or even build one. Makita, it's all the power you need.
Tonight in Minnesota, in Bloomington to be exact, in overtime, the Leafs and the North Stars. This is Brian Lawton. A pass off the boards to a streaking Brian Bellows. Now, keep in mind, it was Bellows who tied the game at 19 seconds left in regulation. He beats Kenny Reagan on a bad goal between the legs. Minnesota wins it in overtime on Bellows' goal, and a great assist to Brian Lawton. Minnesota 3, Toronto 2. The North Stars have won 3 in a row. Let's go back to the forum, Mike.
And on that one fell swoop, the North Stars are in second place in the Norris Division. As ahead now comes Carson, double teamed though nicely by the defense as Brad Berry moved together along with Ellett. Play made by McBean. Along with it is Dave Taylor. Big drive. Hits the goal post with a shot, and Carson hurries it in front.
Boy, did he catch all of that.
Yarvenpaugh outlets along to Amel. Punched away at the line by Duchesne. Amel canceled by the checking of Taylor.
I'll tell you, you know that the Los Angeles Kings are going to carry it across that blue line all night long as the Winnipeg defense let them. Guys like Taylor and Carson and Robitaille, you can't give them that 10 to 12 feet inside the blue line. That's exactly what happened that time. Taylor was allowed to cross the blue line, wind up, and blast, and that's how close he came, right off the post.
The coaching staff was saying this morning, in the history of this franchise, since Dave Taylor arrived, the best line has been the one that he's been on. Mike Murphy said, I could play on a line with him, and we could do pretty well tonight. Phil Muir was sitting nearby and was thinking more about goaltending.
Oh, the old guys are dreaming again, huh? Sure.
It is Sean McKenna. Outlets it along to Bob Bourne. Able to step away from the checking of Barry. Drops it on for the turning McKenna. McKenna rolls it, hoping for Bourne, and he's right there to center in front. Score! Fenton!
Well, we can title this goal, "The Night Indecision Killed Pokey Reddick." McKenna just dumps it in deep. Watch Reddick. He goes out. Whoop, there's Bobby Bourne. Look at Reddick. He just took a little swing at Bobby Bourne and said, well, maybe I'll get back into goal. He didn't get back in his net quick enough because Bourne got it out to Paul Fenton. Once he was committed, I think Pokey had to go for it here. He's caught in no man's land. There he is. And I'll tell you, it doesn't take Bob Bourne long to center it out to Paul Fenton. He seemed to fan on the shot, but it didn't matter. He was right in front and had a whole half of the net to shoot at. All of a sudden, it's 2-2.
Let's see what develops here now, as the Jets, as Bill pointed out, have been giving away the blue line.
Still got time to bet the over.
Nil, wiped out by Grant Ledyard. Turning with it is Bob Bourne. Under 7 minutes to play, first period. We had a feeling this one might be of the high-scoring variety, and the delayed penalty call now coming up. Wrist shot clocked down by Melanson, and we'll get the call. There'll be a power play coming up to Winnipeg with 6:45 to go in the first, and the game tied at 2.
You give your all to all you do. Don't settle for less from your shampoo. Wash and go Pert Plus.
Ordinary shampoo can't give you this kind of manageability. You need Pert Plus, with a unique combination of effective shampoo for cleaning plus conditioner for control, all in one. For great, easy-to-manage hair, it's one of a kind.
Just one shampoo does it all for you. Wash and go.
With shampoo, conditioner in one.
Pert Plus.
There sits Grant Ledyard, and we'll get a chance to see the third best power play in the National Hockey League. You know, we talked, Mike, about the amount of face that Winnipeg has done. Last year they had a great season. This year they're struggling, and they have on years, off years. They even bring it down one step further. Last year they had the 19th best power play in the NHL. This year they're third. Last year they had the top penalty killing in the National Hockey League. This year they're 17th, so they can't do anything consistently. We'll see if we can pick up the penalty. There's Ledyard. Ray Neufeld. Oh, just a straight left to the forehead by Ledyard. See that Paul Stewart had a great vantage point. He just disappeared to the right of our screen.
They will use Howard Chuck with McLean, and the off wing will be handled by Andrew McBain now. Carlisle turns it over to McBain. The other point man for the Jets is Ellis. Now they'll have another shift that will work momentarily. They'll be using Taglianetti, who also has a good shot. Big drive across the goal mouth and off the glove of Melanson. And this will be carried out by Bobby Carpenter. Cruising with Nichols. And played in. One thing about the Kings on the power play is that 8 times this year they've been scored upon. And that is by far the lead in the NHL. Wraps. Around it swirls toward Howard Chuck. Can't stop, but McLean can. Close quarters to Howard Chuck, then to Carlisle. Ellis feeds it to Andrew McBain. Looks to the slot. Howard Chuck is there. He scores! Are we seeing good setups tonight or what?
Well, we're seeing good setups, but we're seeing terrible defensive breakdowns. That is the single most vulnerable spot in the entire ice surface right there for the Los Angeles Kings. 15 feet dead center right out front. Who's the most dangerous guy in the game tonight? Probably Dale Hawerchuk. Let's see how they break down. Here's McBain into McLean. And by that time, you see number 9, Bernie Nichols. That has to be Bernie Nichols' assignment. He has to sag way back in as a forward and take care of Hawerchuk, who's in the medium slot. Boy, let's not take anything away from Dale Hawerchuk. Did he snap it over Melanson's shoulder? Reminiscent of a goal he scored in the Canada Cup against the Soviets.
13th of the year for Hawerchuk as the Kings try to penetrate, but Taylor taken out of the play by Kite. This is Jim Carson, worked over by Kite. The puck brushed along by Steen, and it's Amel across to Marois. Sent along for Steen, but Marois has to help, and he slugs in. Skids through Melanson and along for Carson, but kept by Amel and floated wide.
Well, we are looking at the 21st ranked penalty killing. Oh, here's another chance.
Yarvenpaugh denied.
Well, we said that Rolly Melanson didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what he would face in goal. It's kind of coming true. He has been left all alone to face a number of shooters in this game. We've only played 15 minutes.
Would you anticipate a lot of yelling may go on between periods in both rooms?
Well, I'm not sure Mike Murphy is that much of a yeller. He tries to reason with people. Look at this, all alone in front. tell you one thing that has to be said in the locker room. Boys, this kind of thing has to stop. I mean, if we're going to lose, at least force them to work at it. We can't leave Melanson standing around by himself and leave Jet standing right in front of him. I'm not sure if Murph is going to yell that much, but he'll definitely have some things to say.
Seems to be churning right now as he watches the
They haven't hit anybody either in their own zone. They got to start. Ledyard, gave a straight left to the head of Neufeld and drew a penalty, but that's the cheap stuff. That doesn't wear anybody down. You got to take the ball.
Lifted by Duchesne, along for Fox, swung back along by Ellett. So Fox must try again, and then it's Ellett's turn. Mark Hardy turns to chase. Hardy on the Kings' defense. Couldn't finesse by Howardchuk, but the play is handled on the Kings' defense by Duchesne. Lofted out of play, though, by Carpenter, and once again we get a stoppage. Score of the game, the Winnipeg Jets 3, the Los Angeles Kings 2.
There is a town where the assembly line mentality does not exist, where craftsmanship is revered, where precision is a way of life. A town where the largest occupation is that of car maker. The town is Kalmar, Sweden, the only place in the world where this car could be built. The new Volvo 760.
The Jets are hoping that their trip in and out of Los Angeles will be less eventful than the last time. They were here in preseason and were at the airport about to leave when the big one struck, the hurricane. And a few of the Jets were a little concerned. I'm sorry.
The wind wasn't blowing that hard, but the ground sure was shaking.
That's right. The Miami Screaming Eagles aren't. Punched along, and Dave Ellett is there to take over. On they went that same day to Calgary. A day with a very shaky start, and it didn't finish that well either as they lost. Here is Smale trying to poke one through. Finesse pass for Yarvin Paul, buried on the play by McKenna, and Paul Stewart says that'll cost you a couple. So Winnipeg to go on its second power play of the game.
Trying to see who that was that drove for the net. That's something that Winnipeg has been characteristic of the Winnipeg Jets over the years, is they haven't been gifted scoring-wise. Here it is. It's Hannu Harvenpää who's actually digging for the net. Sean McKenna drags him down. So while the Jets have given something away to other teams in a finesse aspect because they don't have many goal scorers, they've made the best out of what talent they have. They drive for the net consistently. That time Harvenpää actually drew the penalty. It's amazing what types of things happen when you create them, when you put your head down, put your nose down, and just break for the net as hard as you can through traffic.
Well, the Jets are forced to go back and chase. Notice that Los Angeles, Bill pointed out, carrying in a lot more. And Winnipeg has been doing some dumping. We'll watch to see what they'll try here. Obviously, they have those two good point men that they're trying to feed as Reddick sets it up now for Ellett. 3:59 left in the first period of play. The Jets scored by Steen, Duncan, and Howardchuk. Los Angeles from Fox and Fenton. It rides the rail around toward McBain. To get it is McLean. To McBain in the corner. Watched there by Nichols. McLean with some room. Points it for Ellett. His drive is booted away by Melanson. And McBean clears, but it's kept by Ellett and forced further by Bernie Nichols. So Paul McLean, owner of, in my opinion, the second best mustache among active players in the NHL, across to Howardchuk. Lanny McDonald the first, we should emphasize. And that one, talk about a first period that has seen a little of everything. On it comes to Ellett. And it's lofted again, and this one will squirm well wide.
Yeah, the Winnipeg press guide calls Paul McLean's mustache one of the NHL's busiest. Not quite sure what that means, but he calls his mustache the busiest mustache.
And you speak from some experience. Marois drive, score! A 5-hole blisterer. And the score is 4-2 the Jets.
Well, you have to be set by the time the shooter comes down and makes contact with the puck. Okay, Marois gets this away quickly. Nice feed from Carlisle. See on the left-hand side of our screen if we can see if Melanson is in the middle of a bit of a stride. I'm not sure whether he was set or not. If he was set, it's kind of unusual for Melanson to leave him any room between the legs. We're probably not going to see it from that angle either. Originally, it looked as if Melanson was taking a bit of a step when Marois was shooting. By the time the shooter shoots, you've got to be set.
Marois wearing the face shield because of a puck which struck him around the eye, causing a great deal of swelling in a recent game against the New York Rangers. So the Jets get the first two, the Kings get the next two, and now the Jets with two more. And this is the first period of play. The scoreboard will be loaded tonight if it keeps up.
Scoring his first goal at 15-point. Scored by number 22, Mario Marois.
Marois' first goal of the season.
Assistant number 8, Randy Carlisle. Time to goal 17.
And the lone assist will go to Carlisle. Now, does word pass along the bench quickly if there's something that's going wrong shift by shift with Mike Murphy, or when the Jets were having trouble, Dan Maloney talk to each shift as it comes out, try to get them to tighten the game up defensively, or not, Bill?
Yeah, it's very difficult, though, unless you have them in the room to get a chance to regroup and everybody catch their breath and to try and do something perhaps tactically different. Let's say, let's not take any chances. Let's dump the puck out of our end as soon as we get it and wait for a break. The one thing the Kings can't do now, because they play wide open anyway, is open it up. Here's that near miss on the long drifter that came down on Pokey Reddick. What, did he stumble, Mike, when he was on his way out of the net, or did the puck change direction that much?
Last year at Madison Square Garden, as you see, Ray Neufeld boxed on a minor, and Dan Maloney is somewhat steamed.
What's the problem, Dangerous Dan? You got a 4-2 lead here in the first period. Not so bad.
Your attention, please.
Neufeld gets the minor, and the call is closing his hand on the puck.
Oh, that explains Dan's posture.
Kite clears, and it can be set up. Now, they'll use Ledyard out on the back line for this power play. Bernie Nichols is out, as well as Taylor and Carson and Robitaille. And in comes Taylor. Feeds to Robitaille, and what a play made by Ron Wilson. Ledyard to Robitaille. Centers kicked by Marois, and Smale has some room. Moves out with Ron Wilson, and they rush it even further. So Jimmy Carson able to outlet along to Robitaille. 2 minutes left first period. Jets leading the Kings 4-2. Carlisle had that one go into Robitaille, but it is inadvertently under one of the Kings, and that's enough for a stoppage of play, and they rule this being a hand pass.
Well, you wouldn't expect Winnipeg to give up a 2-on-1 the way they did right away. Sure, they're down a man, but you've got to be real conscious of what's going on positionally. And here Taylor breaks in. He has Robitaille on the far side. He tries a little elevator pass, but you can see the puck. He had a glimpse of it just starting to go end over end, and it didn't land flat enough for Robitaille really to get any kind of shot away. As you mentioned, Mike, good play by Wilson coming back, but he shouldn't have had to come back. That's a tough 2-on-1 to give up early into a power play.
Is an offensive hand pass, and the faceoff comes back to center ice, where Fox will be on the near wing. The centerman now for the power play will be Carpenter, and across on the opposite side, Fenton. Fenton with one of the two Kings goals tonight. Stepping along is Duchesne. Taken down on the play by Randy Carlisle, and if the Kings give it up quickly, there'll be a 5-on-3. The Jets don't want to touch right now. Delayed call on. Fox flips one in front, and now we'll get the penalty call. The Jets were just going to let play go because they've seen a lot of 5-on-3s against this year, and as soon as they touch, the whistle is blown.
You know, that's an interesting penalty. Steve Duchesne made what I would call a low percentage move at the blue line. He didn't have much speed, and he tried to go around Randy Carlisle, but his move was good enough, and Carlisle was flat-footed enough. Here it is. There's Duchesne's move. He doesn't have a great amount of speed, but he has enough to go around Carlisle. Carlisle just kind of gets the skate and the stick under Duchesne's wheels, and you can see Paul Stewart calling the penalty. That puts Winnipeg in a big jam. They've got 1 minute and 4 seconds left in the penalty to Neufeld. Now 2 minutes to Carlisle, so we're looking at a 2-man advantage for the Los Angeles Kings. Naturally, they've got Robitaille out there, Carson, along with Dave Taylor.
The stats are never too impressive on 5-on-3s. The Kings are having their 6th one unofficially this year. They've scored on one of the previous 5, and the Jets have had to kill off 11 of them. They have killed off 8 of the 11. From this tie-up, it is Nichols giving it back to Hardy. But you get the sense that Hardy just can't do anything right with these fans. He sent one right in on Reddick that time, and then a chop by Carson earns a shove from Kite.
Sure. You know what? I'm having a little bit of a deja vu, except the colors on the uniforms were different. That sure is reminiscent of the swat that Glenn Anderson laid on Ron Hextall in the playoffs last year. And then Hextall retaliated by hitting Ken Nilsson. That time the puck was lodged between Reddick's pads, and Carson gave him a swat. It didn't hurt Reddick at all, but that's taboo. You don't do that to a team's goalie. Watch Carson. Bing, there it is. Look out. Here comes 6'5" of Jim Kite. Carson saying, all right already.
Between periods, we'll learn more about these two splendid second-year players for the Kings, Luc Robitaille and Jimmy Carson, whose father, Chuck, is here from Detroit tonight watching the game.
Didn't he own the parking lots at the old Olympia, and Marcel Dionne's wife used to hold Carson on her lap at the Detroit Red Wings games?
Right. Here is Nichols firing, and that one ricochets right off Marois. Nichols looks again. Finesses one that goes through Carson. He has to recover, and Marois there to prevent it. But it's Robitaille looking toward the open Taylor. Back for Hardy. Drive, save, rebound. Oh, and Taylor lofts one up.
Did Reddick get a piece of that? He had to. There's no way Dave Taylor would just shoot that over the end glass.
I saw initially a signal to center ice for the faceoff, and we'll see if Paul Stewart follows.
Here's Hardy's shot. Looked like there was a deflection in front. Here it is to Taylor. Still couldn't tell.
No. Paul Stewart rules a center ice face-off as a result.
Well, nobody seems to be arguing it, so it does appear that Dave Taylor, it must have flipped right up flat on his blade.
What do you think?
You're right, it didn't touch Reddick at all. Well, Taylor was trying to make the right play and getting it over Reddick. He also got it right over the end glass.
What do you think? A 5-iron shot, but he used a 9?
Yeah.
Paul Stewart has just been over checking on an equipment problem Reddick has had. Last year against the New York Rangers, Reddick faced a Willie Huber shot from center ice that seemed to trip over the right wing offensive circle and go right over his shoulder. Reminiscent of a misplay here, but a far different one in that it was airborne rather than trickling along the ice.
Well, he'd far rather have them happen in the National Hockey League than with the Fort Wayne Comets. That's where he came from before he made it to the National Hockey League.
1 minute.
It is punched away from Kite along for Robitaille. Up it comes for Hardy. Angled right back along for Carson, and then to Hardy once more. Nichols, Hardy. Nichols. Drive. Snared by Reddick, and he'll wait.
Surprised Nichols shot that. It bounced up, or at least it tipped up on end, and when Nichols let it go, it was sitting right on end. And if you're going to try and shoot a knuckleball through a crowd, that's not a bad way to have it with the puck standing on end. But in that particular case, you want control. You should be able to line up a deflection or shoot at a certain part of the goalie to try and get a rebound towards one of the open sides. It flipped up. It was still. Nichols went ahead and shot it anyway.
You saw a close-up Eldon Pokey Reddick. Bill mentioned he played for the Fort Wayne Comets, and there, Jimmy Carson. He says, I have no trouble being motivated this year. I got cut from Team USA by Bob Johnson. The year before, Jim Devellano of Detroit did not draft me first overall. Instead, he went for a man named Murphy, and I was second. That was my motivating factor last year. As Hardy fires, and that tipped away. Puck controlled, then thrown back out by Brad Barry on defense.
You know, I haven't seen anything impressive on this Kings power play. You've got to figure with the two-man advantage that they can work a clear shot on that. They shouldn't have to just blast from the point and goal or a rebound. But they haven't opened Winnipeg's triangle up. They simply did not move the puck around. They played close to the triangle. Made it real easy, as the Winnipeg penalty killers, I'm sure, would tell us right now. That was an easy penalty to kill because LA never did get them running around.
It's a 5-on-4 now for the next 30 seconds, but 20 of that will extend into the period. We're down to the last 5 of this period, as it is Carpenter flipping one that is just highlighted back to center ice. And with that, the horn sounds to end the first period of play. Well, we've seen quite a bit. Winnipeg Jets leading at the end of 1. On goals by Steen, Duncan, Howardchuk, and Marois, the Jets have 4. Fox and Fenton have scored for the Kings. They have 2.
A tradition of horsepower. For the second consecutive year, Budweiser racing teams captured 3 national championships. Bobby Rahal in the Bud Indy car. Kenny Bernstein in the Budweiser King. And Jim Cropfeld in Miss Budweiser. It's a tradition of horsepower that keeps Budweiser ahead of the pack. Racing fans,
Introducing the G-Shock 5200 watch from Casio. The sports watch that's ready for action with a built-in shock absorber. It's tough, so tough, this G-Shock can take a slap in the face and not even flinch. The G-Shock 5200, just one of Casio's water-resistant sports watches. It's one tough watch to beat.
The Great American face. Rugged, distinctive. The Great American razor. Atra, solid. Pivots for closeness. The Great American face deserves the Great American shave. Atra, only from Gillette.
In one of these, and in one of these. One of these lasts longer than all the rest. Two rights, the extraordinary Energizer. In one of these, one of these lasts longer than all the rest. Two rights, the extraordinary Energizer. It'll surprise ya.
Laboratory tests prove in most devices, Energizer lasts longer than any other battery. New Energizer.
It's tough to keep up appearances on the road unless you pack the Steam Valet from Sunbeam. It's ready to give you that just pressed look whenever you're pressed for time.
I'm on my way.
The Steam Valet Garment Steamer from Sunbeam.
Well, what do you know? Just another quiet night at the Los Angeles Forum. 6 goals scored, 4 for Winnipeg, 2 for the LA Kings, and the Jets lead it 4-2 after one period. Something tells me, this game is very far from over. Well, the Dodge Performer of the Week in the National Hockey League happens to be one of the all-stars of an all-star crew for the Edmonton Oilers, Mark Messier. Just last Sunday night, Messier against the Buffalo Sabres. He'll camp out to the side of the net. Where's number 11? He passes to Jeff Bukaboom, and now the puck comes to the point. The shot is taken, and there's Messier to calmly deflect the puck into the net. For the last 3 games, Mark Messier has scored 4 goals and 5 assists. This does not include the efforts tonight in Washington, but for his performance over last week, 4 goals, 5 assists, 3 games, Mark Messier of the Edmonton Oilers is the Dodge Performer of the Week in the NHL.
Names like Howe, Hull, or Esposito. Each week, ESPN is proud to present an intimate look at the men of the NHL.
I was fortunate enough to win 3 Stanley Cup for the Montreal Canadiens in my early career. So that was a great thrill. Also, 1976 Canada Cup when we beat Czechoslovakia in overtime to win the Canada Cup. So that was very exciting too. I always liked number 30. I started with 29, but then I switched to 30, and I had fairly good success with this. So I kept it all the way to when I moved to Detroit. Unfortunately, I tried 40, and that was a mistake. I would keep the same stick. If I was winning games, I would keep the same goalie stick. So let me tell you, after 4 or 5 games, I had so much tape on it, I would just try to, I didn't want to give it up. And if I would lose a game, then I would change. I used to like the old Olympia in Detroit, and also Chicago Stadium. I seemed to play pretty well in Chicago Stadium. I always liked that whole atmosphere and the old organ, and it was fun to play on. I played with a lot of good hockey players, and I think the one that comes in mind is John Beliveau. He was a classy gentleman and a great teammate, and he was almost like a father to every player. So I think that's why Montreal was so successful. And they used to call me Bono when I was in LA, and apparently I sort of resemble a little bit Bono in Cher's husband. So I don't know if it was true, but they used to call me Bono.
I can't resist it. I guess then the beat will go on in Los Angeles. Rogatien Vachon, one of the NHL's all-time good goaltenders, and now the general manager of the LA Kings, trying to build a winner. We'll have a feature on how he's trying to do that around 2 second-year superstars as the NHL on ESPN continues.
Ford Fever, get it now. Ford F-150, the best-built, best-selling full-size pickup in America. Now drive a new F-150 for only $117 a month. That's right, $117 a month. Now get $500 cash back from Ford on F-150s. And we'll throw in this $395 value Ford Bedliner for only $117. F-150, $117 a month, $500 cash back, and a Bedliner for $117. Ford Fever's gonna make a believer out of you. Ford Fever, get it now.
Christmas list doesn't have to be a professional to look like one. Because McCaffrey's Golf Shop has discount prices on the same famous makers' shirts, slacks, and sweaters worn by the stars on the PGA Tour. At McCaffrey's, you'll get substantial savings on quality shoes, bags, clubs, and clothing. Get 2 pairs of slacks for the price other shops charge for 1. Get 2 famous makers' shirts for the price that other shops charge for 1. Make your Christmas merrier with big savings from McCaffrey's Golf Shop, 26 2nd Street at Market in San Francisco.
Well, it's true that the good teams in any sport build from the ground up. They sacrifice the present to carefully build for the future. Such is the case in Los Angeles, where the King organization feels that through time, as they build around young stars like Luc Robitaille and Jimmy Carson, the wins will come fast and furious. But for now, Carson and Robitaille are the whole show in Tinseltown.
In the days of old, when the Kings wore all gold, they were paced by the Triple Crown line, led by that little general, Marcel Dionne. However, now that the big line is a thing of the past, youth now reigns supreme on the West Coast. The new generation has taken over in L.A., headed by Supersoft's Luc Robitaille and his line mate Jimmy Carson. Last year turned out to be a memorable rookie season for both, with honors beginning for both players even before the end of last season. Typical, this honor to Jimmy Carson.
Your choice as the most popular King, number 17, Jimmy Carson.
Carson finished second in rookie scoring a year ago with 37 goals and 79 points. It was a big season for the first-year centerman, only to be topped by the exploits of teammate Luc Robitaille, whose 45 goals and 84 points enabled him to become the first Los Angeles King to capture the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year honors. He accepted that trophy at a special awards banquet.
Thank you. I didn't think I was going to win, so I'm real happy. I'd like to thank my parents and the Kings organization for giving me a chance, and special thanks to Marcel Dionne, who really helped me. Thank you.
Both Carson and Robitaille grew up admiring the aging superstar Dionne. Although Marcel has taken his Hall of Fame act into Madison Square Garden, both youngsters reflect on the guidance they received from Dionne as rookies.
He was a big influence on the ice, but I think outside the ice he showed me a lot of things about professional life and how to get ready for a game and all that stuff, and I think that was the biggest influence he had on me.
I've learned a lot from him, and one thing he always told me was you have to stand on your own 2 feet, and you have to do what you feel is right to better yourself and the team. So I'm going to do my best on the ice and off the ice to improve myself and the team.
This season, Robitaille now has Carson as his center. The move was paid off immediately, with the pair running 1-2 and Kings scoring, netting 30 of the Kings' 90 goals between them. Though it would be easy for 2 young stars to become jealous of each other's talent, Carson says no way.
My relationship with Luc is we're friendly. You know, we're very good friends. Matter of fact, we talk a lot and we try to better each other, and we always try to help other players out. You know, we got a lot of help from Marcel and other veterans, you know, Dave Taylor and so on. So we feel it's very important to help others, and we always try to push each other when we're in slumps or we're not in good spirits. So, you know, we're there to help each other.
Here's Robitaille with a 2-on-1. He's got a man alone. Carson down the middle in front. He shoots. He scores! Jimmy Carson!
I think that their offense speaks for themselves. They're excellent young offensive players, and they read the game well that way. We have to be a better defensive team for us to compete with the top teams in the league. So right now our goal is to improve them defensively, and they're excellent young men. They're willing to learn, and they're willing to improve, and I think that's what made them the stars they were last year. We plan to build on that and to make them bigger and better stars.
The L.A. Kings have been in business 20 years on the West Coast. They've never been a serious threat in the playoffs, but with players like Robitaille and Carson and a lot of defensive help over the next couple of years, they just may be. Who knows? After one period, though, the Kings are trailing the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 4-2.
I don't feel comfortable taking my Nissan to just anybody, so I take it to my authorized Nissan dealer, where customer satisfaction is their #1 concern. Hayward Nissan's technicians will fix your car right the first time by installing genuine Nissan parts. And for quality and custom fit, nobody beats their selection of genuine Nissan accessories. This week, get your Nissan ready for winter with a tune-up for as low as $29.95. For prompt, reliable service and genuine Nissan parts, See Hayward Nissan in Hayward.
Gobble up these Thanksgiving week specials at Photo Drive Up. Video rentals are only $1 per movie per day when you rent any 3 movies from any of Photo Drive Up's 14 video locations. Over 60,000 movies, including family favorites like Lady and the Tramp. Save on Memorex blank videotape, just $2.59 with rebate. And color prints are just half price when you mention this station and have your 110, 126, 135, or disc film developed at Photo Drive Up. Visit our new superstore in San Jose at Camden and Lee. 33 stores, copies, passports, and more. Photo Drive Up.
Foley counts on his defensemen to keep the net clear and give him a good view of the puck. That's team hockey. I'm Lou Nanny, and 400,000 Americans with retinitis pigmentosa, RP, also get help from a team. The RP Foundation Fighting Blindness. They're researching for the cause, treatment, and prevention of this hereditary eye disease. We are counting on the RP team because saving sight is one of the greatest saves you can make. For more information, call 1-800-638-2300.
3 other games tonight in the National Hockey League, one of them in Quebec City, but the Nordiques, they lose for the 7th time in the last 8 games. Vancouver wins it 3-1. The Canucks getting all 3 goals in the first period from Benning, Boyd, and Smeal, and Kirk McLean did the job in the nets for Vancouver. Edmonton and Washington. The Edmonton Oilers have had a lot of trouble with the Capitals, both at home and on the road. Tonight's game at the Capitol Center, Landover, Maryland. Edmonton rookie Chris Joseph, just obtained from Pittsburgh, cuts his way around the Caps defense, gets the puck to Craig Simpson, passing it under Malarchik's pads. Yari Curry stuffs the puck in the net, and Edmonton led it 1-0 midway in the first period. Early second, still 1-0. Caps have a 2-on-1. Bank Gustafson, though, shoots instead of passes. He scores to tie the game at 1. Second period, the Caps leading 3-1 and have another power play. Mike Gartner will take the initial shot right there, and Bank Gustafson is there for his second goal of the game on the rebound. So the Capitals led that point 4-1. They go on to win it by a score of 4-2. But the bad news in that game for Washington, before the game, it was announced that Rod Langway would be out 8 weeks with a ruptured disc in his back. By the way, the Caps have beaten Edmonton 6 out of the last 7 times they played them. Toronto at Minnesota tonight. You saw a bit of that game live during the first period of our game in L.A. We'll pick it up 2-1 Toronto. Waning seconds of the game. And the extra attacker is on the ice for Minnesota. It pays off as Neil Broughton's shot, rather Bob Brooks' shot, is tipped in by Brian Bellows to tie the game at 2. We go into overtime. Behind the net, it's Brian Lawton. Passes off the boards, up ice. It's onside to Bellows again. He shoots and scores through the pads of Ken Reagan. The North Stars come back from the dead. They tie the game with 19 seconds left in regulation. They win the game in overtime on a goal by Brian Bellows. The North Stars have won 3 in a row. They're in second place now in the Norris Division. Our score after 1 period tonight from the fabulous form in L.A. Not so fabulous for the L.A. Kings. They trail the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 4-2, and we'll be back with the second period just a few minutes from now.
Run the lights here?
Hey! Oh, no idea what's this, huh? Yours is useful. Put the quarter in this thing. Oh, no! Bud Light!
Ask for Bud Light.
Go down.
The light beer with the first name and taste.
Let me know when you're ready for another round.
Because everything else is just a light.
Titanium. The stuff the fastest jets are made of. Introducing the watch with the right stuff. The new Timex Titanium.
From Nike. Gravity will never be the same.
Fancy perfuming aftershave. It's got to be a quarterback's locker. Real guys who get mud on their uniforms use rugged, honest stuff. Ice Blue Aqua Velva.
There's something about today's Aqua Velva man.
Look for Aqua Velva Christmas gift sets.
Well, you know the bad news.
Charlie Carlson is in the meeting of his life, and his shirt is perfectly dry. But that doesn't mean he smells good. Because Under Armour odor is invisible, he needs total protection. Sure Solid.
If everyone would take a
Sure not only helps protect against wetness, it actually kills bacteria that cause odor. So, Charlie, why go to work with a dry shirt and a false sense of security? Use Sure Solid and be just as sure about odor as you are about wetness.
We're set for the second period of play from the Forum in Los Angeles. It is Winnipeg leading at 4-2. Let's go back live now to Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
21 seconds of power play time will be up on the board for the Los Angeles Kings when this period gets underway. Bill, I know you've had an opportunity to share your Paul Stewart story, or at least one of several that we have. I remember Thanksgiving Eve in 1979, I was in Maine watching the Boston Bruins play the Quebec Nordiques. Paul Stewart, as you mentioned, I think in a recent telecast, fought three guys, O'Reilly, Jonathan, and Secord, but he grew up around Boston and he knows the way they televise a game. So each time that they handed out the penalties and they focused in on him on camera in the penalty box, he looked for the red light to come on and then he'd wave. Now he gets the third one and gets a game misconduct, starts down the aisle near the Bruins bench where he had to leave, almost was down the stairs, realized the camera was on, came back one last wave. He drops the puck here to start the second period, and the Kings have a very short power play. They try to work it with Steve Duchesne, but now forced deeper is Hardy, and Wilson just dueling him back into the deepest reaches of the Kings zone. 5 seconds left on the minor to Randy Carlyle. The Kings reach center ice. Hardy will bring it further, and out of the box is Carlyle. Centering pass is cut off by Wilson and cleared back down. So now the teams are at even strength. 30 seconds gone here in the second period. The Jets are leading the Los Angeles Kings by a count of 4-2. And I would say that the crowd here, though small in number, has become a little surly toward the home team. Our game tonight is being brought to you by Casio, maker of the shock-resistant, water-resistant G-Shock. It's one tough watch to beat. And by Plymouth, the pride's inside every Plymouth. Designed in and built in. Plymouth, the pride's inside. The pride's inside there, too. Dave Taylor, Clarkson. I think they were fantasizing a little bit, the coach at room today, imagining what it would be like to play with Dave Taylor. Of course, Robitaille and Carson were certainly pleased to be with Marcel Dion last year, but the addition of Taylor has not caused them to miss any steps.
Taylor, when you look at him, follow him around the ice. He doesn't have a weakness. He's good with the puck, an expert scorer, excellent checker. He's tough. He's a good leader. When he speaks, everybody listens. He's an ideal kind of athlete. Really doesn't have a weakness.
Ian Duncan lifts in. And the Kings bring it back in the person of Mark Hardy along now to Jim Fox. Moves along with Carpenter, but the play breaks down at the Winnipeg line. And that again a point, for those of you just joining us, that Bill brought up in the first period. Play breaking down so often at the opposition line when the Los Angeles Kings try to deal with it. This time it's a dump in by the Jets, and Melanson sweeps it back along. Oh, good crunching check there, thrown by Ray Neufeld. Puck tipped away, and Boschman can play across at center ice for the drill back in by Barry. Melanson tends it back along to McBean. So Dan Maloney talked about hitting between periods. You can tell the way these shifts of Jets are coming out.
You're right.
It is lifted by Duchesne, and that one right into Melanson. Carpenter outlets to Fox. Moving on with Bernie Nichols. Fox just plays the safety, comes to the bench, shift change on. Fenton out, along with McKenna and Bourne, the front line for Los Angeles. Shots are 12 for the Kings and 10 for the Winnipeg Jets. And of the 10, 4 have gotten in, and here's a giveaway, but that one cut off by Bob Bourne along to Fenton. Fenton pops one back to neutral ice, and the play hammered back along. A certain amount of pressure on the Kings goaltenders right now because of the performance that's going on in New Haven by Bob Janasek. He has fashioned a splendid record in the American Hockey League with the New Haven Nighthawks of 9 wins and 2 losses, while up here the Kings defensively and in goal have been having some trouble. Spun right through for the breaking Duncan, and he couldn't direct it home. Bob Bourne takes over for Los Angeles, outlets it ahead to Fenton, crossing with McKenna, and Fenton able to throw one just beyond the reach of McKenna. They pinch and work, and the puck back out. Fenton giving chase, but Dale Howarchuk there for the pivot, wants to dish it off, and does to Duncan for a shot that is gloved and then away from Melanson, brought back out now by Ledyard. Melanson was caught off guard by that one, but what a 360 move. Howarchuk feathered one through for Duncan to have. Now it is Elliott along to Bradbury. Glasses it back to neutral ice, and it'll be Duchesne's play. Just over 3 minutes gone in the second period. 4-2 the score in favor of the Jets, and Carson moves in. Carson feeds one across, but is shanked, first of all, by Taylor, and then driven by Robitaille off the goalkeeper. Pinching along is Duchesne. Forehander. Swatted away by Reddick and into the seats, and that'll be a minor.
Not a bad call. Reddick had it, swatted it up into the stands, and Stewart has whistled in for a delay of game.
Los Angeles to go on power play number 4, trailing Winnipeg 4-2.
She's going to Hong Kong.
Hong Kong?
Hong Kong. Free.
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 I hate her.
No frequent flyer program gives you Asia faster.
The money that you spent on calls to your mother last month, you could have gone to visit her.
Okay, dear. I'll leave tomorrow.
Northwest can fly you to your mom, your aunt, or distant cousins at fares that can make flying cheaper than talking.
Here's a good chance for Los Angeles to get back in the game. There is Pokey Reddick, who has just been called for delay of game. And it was an unsung play in that whole sequence, Mike, that Jimmy Carson made. He actually held one of the Jets close into the net, the defenseman that should have gone into the corner to get the puck. That left Duchesne open to actually skate into the corner, shoot the puck on Reddick, and he had all kinds of traffic in front of him. Jimmy Carson, for a kid that's 19 years old, does so many little things well, even that go unnoticed.
Here is Ron Wilson, shorthanded for the Jets. Dogged by Hardy, and they cancel one another, and then Hardy has to react as Boschman is out shorthandedly with Wilson for Winnipeg. Smale can't dive, and so to get it is Kite. Dubs one that is followed up by Robitaille and flung off Wilson. Hardy takes a look, does not want to shoot, lays it back off for Dave Taylor. At the front between the hash marks Robitaille, the drive from Hardy is blocked off by Reddick. Taylor looks for Robitaille but gives to Hardy. Then to Nichols. Nichols forced further by Smale. Pivoting is Robitaille. To the back to Hardy. To Robitaille again. Just drills one, and that off Marois. Marois limping somewhat as the play comes back to Hardy again. Big drive, blocked again, as Reddick may have gotten a piece of that, or perhaps it was Marois in front. 1 minute to go, power play. Kings have just been bombing away here as Taylor wanted to finesse, but the defensive ranks close quickly. Nichols, then to Hardy. Hardy wanted to spin in front, has to play a second, then a third time, and that draws again. The wrath of the fans on Mark Hardy. Nichols pivots, rushes back. Jets in the midst of a shorthanded shift change. Nichols looks for Carpenter at the front. Still holds, then to Duchesne for a drive, high and wide. Loose puck to Andrew McBain. If he hurries, he can start one up. He's got a man breaking at Steen, but McBain just controls, doesn't drop off, still holding, and all this time continues to go off the penalty side of the Jets on the scoreboard. Nichols getting up from the collision with McBain as back through with it comes Carson. 5 seconds left, power play. Puck brushed along, and a jam to the side of the net by Carson hit the goal. Played back by Robitaille. Penalty time up. Duchesne to Robitaille. Carson wheeled one off the stick of Reddick. Puck rolled along by Carlisle. Ahead with it is Amell. Amell with Boschman. Lays it over for Ellick. Can't connect in front with Boschman as Ledyard makes the play. This is Fenton for the Kings. Teams at even strength, 14-15 to go, second period. Jets are leading the Kings 4-2 as Carson plays in for the shift change. And Pokey Reddick will tap it behind. Was there anything significant from the statistics that were being kept in the first period about dumps and carry-ins by the Los Angeles Kings? Maybe we'll get to that in a moment. 14:02 to go in the second. It's the Jets 4 and the Kings 2.
Introducing the G-Shock 5200 watch from Casio. The sports watch that's ready for action with a built-in shock absorber. It's tough, so tough, this G-Shock can take a slap in the face and not even flinch. The G-Shock 5200, just one of Casio's water-resistant sports watches. It's one tough watch to beat.
6-2 the score. The Jets are leading here in the second period with now 14 minutes to play. Off the glass, hustling in is McKenna. Checked by Kite. Benton centers in front, and Bourne couldn't get a good shot away. Bourne has a try again, a save made by Reddick. Back out the Jets hurry. A pass from Howardchuk to McLean. Misses on the return to Howardchuk, and deep to play is Kennedy. Along to McBean. Has Bourne moving. Drops one ahead of McKenna. Marois along to Kite. Can't reach Duncan first time. Second time he's checked by Kennedy. Howardchuk spins for McLean. And McLean sized up by McBean. Help came from Benton, but it's Duncan behind. Anticipating the centering pass was Kennedy on the check. And the puck angled back out.
Boy, it's pretty tough to get any momentum going in an offensive zone when people are creasing you against the boards. That time, Kennedy just leveled one of the Los Angeles or one of the Winnipeg Jets players. That's what they weren't doing in the first period. It's obvious to me that both Maloney and Murphy said, guys, if you want to have any success out there tonight, you have to start running into people. Los Angeles is definitely doing it in their end.
You know, we noticed the Jets doing it in the first couple of shifts of this period, but it seems to have quieted, Bill. Here's a play made off Howardchuk. And bringing it back further is Ray Neufeld. Over for Barry, but the play is offside. Did you enjoy coming in here as a player, Bill?
Well, it was always nice, and you talk to the players even to this day, especially players that play in Winnipeg. When it's 40 degrees below zero in Winnipeg, it's real nice coming in here and playing in Los Angeles. Here's a look at the chance that Bob Bourne had. It was kind of a spinorama. He has it here. He's got to turn and fire. He doesn't bother trying to get it up high. He just tries to keep it low to the long side. The Reddick had his pad down.
A lot of times it's a motivation to a visiting team if they're in here and have a couple of days later that maybe they won't leave right away if they win the game.
Sure, it's like a treat to stay here for a couple of days. It used to be wonderful when the Oakland Seals were in the league. The saddest day in the National Hockey League when I was playing was when Oakland moved to Cleveland. Sort of instead of going in a western swing, Los Angeles and Oakland, it just became Los Angeles and then went after Cleveland instead of Oakland.
Well, good franchise though it is, I'm sure that the departure of the Flames to Calgary from that nice southern city of Atlanta probably hurt a little bit too. Play made across to Grant Ledyard with 12:20 left in the second period. 4-2, Winnipeg ahead. Carpenter, nice shake through Ellen. Feeds one in front, and Padelski shot it wide. And then the rebound in on Pokey Reddick.
Boy, what a one-man show. Carpenter down the side. One great move after the other. Got around Ellett, and then he saw that man, Bob Kudelski, breaking. I think Kudelski just shot it off the heel of his stick. Fanned on it a little bit. Here's the move by Carpenter. He lets the puck go along the boards. You can see he took the look at the right time. He didn't bother with the puck. He took his chance to look around. Here's Kudelski snuck in behind number 23 of the Jets, Hanu Harvenpah.
Kudelski, the Yaley, ECAC first All-Star, was one of the cuts by the USA Olympic team. Very strong on the boards and on face-offs. I think the Olympic team was looking for a little more speed. And
yeah, he's a big forward. He's a good corner man in the smaller rinks. Let's keep in mind the Olympic games are going to be played on a rink that's bigger than this one. It's 200 by 100. This is 200 by 85. So you have 15 feet of width that these rinks don't have.
Steen checked off by Kennedy. And Kudelski off the heels of Erickson and the play offside. We should mention that Team USA has played tonight at Western Michigan in Kalamazoo. They'll go on to University of Wisconsin next Monday, and then they begin an 8-game set against a Soviet select club. Still a lot of time between now and mid-February out in Calgary.
Sure is. Here's Randy Carlyle. He won the Norris Trophy in the NHL. 1980-81 Norris winner with the Pittsburgh Penguins on the strength of 16 goals and 67 assists that year for 83 points. Originally was a second-round pick by the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1976. And, you know, players really changed their style a lot. When he came into this league, Mike, he was a banger. He was a skeleton rattler. He took everything that moved and smashed into the boards. Then he decided to get a little more finesse into his game, and he was good enough to win the Norris Trophy in 81.
Was he a bigger player then? Was he a lot heavier than he is now?
Well, he always did fight a little bit of the Dunlop disease around the waist.
Kennedy checks with Amel. A chance for the Jets. Score by Ray Neufeld. Check that. Andrew McBain. I'm apologize. I misread 28 for 20.
Doesn't really matter at this stage. That gives the Jets a 5-2 lead. And if I'm not mistaken, this one as well went through Melanson and not around him. A broken play at the blue line. Dean Kennedy gets beat. All of a sudden, the Jets have a 2-on-1. Here's the shot. Pretty tough to see from that angle, but it looked as if Melanson was set. Well, he might just be having one of those nights where it doesn't matter how much of the net he has covered. Here's a good look at it. Yep, right between the legs again. It doesn't really matter tonight. It seems how much of the net Roland Melanson has covered. He's going to get pulled. And he's being pulled right now. Glenn Healy coming in to replace him.
Really, since Vachon left, I know Mario Lessard had one splendid year, but the Kings have gone through a lot of goalies. In the last 5 seasons, I counted 12.
Yeah.
12 goaltenders that have played here.
Here's a look at Glenn Healy. You mentioned Janicek playing so well down in New Haven. Janicek's one of the players that Healy beat out to stay with his Los Angeles team. Well, Mike Murphy says he can come off the bench. He's the kind of guy that's always in the game emotionally, and physically he seems to be able to respond in the spur of the moment. Just bring him off the bench and he seems to be warmed up right away. You know that Winnipeg's going to try and drift a couple at him now just to see if he's warmed up or not.
Stoppage of play with 11:24 to go in the second. It's the Jets 5 and the Kings 2.
The pride's inside.
Take an amazing voyage through Plymouth Grand Voyager and discover why the pride's inside. Beyond versatility, room for up to 8, front-wheel drive handling. Beyond the excitement of Voyager's fuel-injected V6. The best protection and highest owner satisfaction of any minivan. Deep within Plymouth Voyager, the pride's inside. Before you're inside.
The pride's inside. Born in America.
The 5th Winnipeg goal scored by McBain is 9th from Amel and Marois at 8:29. So Marois with a goal and an assist from the defense corps tonight. Handling it for the Kings is Mark Hardy. Through Howard Chuck, the pass clicks to Fenton. Drops one off. Reddick there to punch it away, but there's Bourne, and he drove it across the goal mouth wide. Duchesne pops to the corner. Ellett pops away from a pair. Checked by McKenna, but the puck off Hardy. Overskated, though, and the Kings still can attack. Bourne checked by Barry. Along comes McKenna. It's Fenton looking for a point that was empty, so the play must go the other way for Bourne, and it is chopped back away by Andrew McBain. 10:35 left in the second. In case you're just joining us, this is the Jets leading the Los Angeles Kings 5-2 as Fox denied by Ellett's long reach. Puck comes to Boschman, forechecked by Nichols. Play back through to Ray Neufeld. Drilled by Healy. It swirls around toward Fox. There'll be a penalty coming up to the Jets. And Jim Nill will go, and so the Kings will get another power play opportunity, trailing by 3. 10:18 to go in the second period. It's the Jets 5 and the Kings 2.
Can't breathe. Can't sleep.
Before and Afrin. Relief so you can sleep. What Afrin does in 5 minutes takes Sudafed over an hour. It's the #1 recommended nasal spray.
The Great American Face. Strong, sensitive. The Great American Razor. Atra Plus. Solid. With the Lubra Smooth Strip for extra protection. The Great American Face deserves the Great American Shave. Atra Plus. Only from Gillette.
Jim Nill for holding. Here it is.
Oh, yes.
Doesn't seem to matter, though, tonight with the Los Angeles Kings. Well, they'll take it.
Thomas Steen on the center ice faceoff with Carpenter. We should probably mention, lest you think there's an epidemic going around in the league, that Healy has not scored a goal this year, nor has Pokey Redding. Bob Froese credited with a goal against the New York Islanders. And he had a chance to go for 2 late in the game. It was that ideal situation. The Rangers were shorthanded.
Sure.
They could ice the puck, and they were ahead by 2.
You know, it was interesting. The only other goalie credited with a goal in the NHL faced him that night, Billy Smith.
Yeah. Billy Smith and That against the Colorado Rockies back in '79. And the guy who tried to feed the point that night and saw it go all the way down the ice, guy well known in the NHL still, Rob Ramage. Puck played by Ledyard. Ahead now to Nichols. Pops one in that rattles right in front, and Reddick punches, but Fox is there. Fox in close quarters. Can't play to Carpenter. Defending is Carlisle, but the play is made back down to Fenton. Then behind to Fox. Can't get away from Ellett, and Ellett takes over to clear. A minute 25 to go on the power play to Los Angeles. The Kings are trailing 5-2 midway in the second period. They have out big Jim Kite on defense along with Marois, but the real trouble comes from up front as Thomas Steen just putting on a show.
Well, it sure is easy pickings. McBain and Steen are in deep forechecking. That sequence, all three Los Angeles forwards were standing out near the center ice line. Bernie Nichols ended up with the pass from Ledyard. Where's he going to go with it? Everybody's cut off.
Ledyard plays on to Carpenter. Then to Ledyard. On to Fenton. Has Ledyard moving and gets to him to Fox, and the shot dug. Played now by Fenton. Looks to Carpenter. For Fox. No one in front, so the play is along the outside. Carpenter takes a look. To Ledyard. Plays to Carpenter. Still to play outside. Ledyard a shot off the mark. Nichols moving for it. Steen able to tap back out. 28 seconds to go on this power play. It's the fifth one of the night for the Los Angeles Kings as McBain takes over. Wrapping it back along, but waiting is Hardy. Nichols has trouble with it. Carson returns to him. Bernie Nichols on back to Hardy. Shovels one, and that directed to the glass by Reddick. Fenton back to Hardy again. Big drive off the leg of McBain and back to center ice. And as that happens, penalty time is up to Jin Nill. Good job by Winnipeg.
Real good job. You know, the guy you got to feel sorry for is Dave Taylor. He's in front of the net taking a beating from Jim Kite and anybody else that comes along. And the puck just never got through to him, so it's all for naught. He's in there getting beat up and nobody gets the puck through.
Ahead now Duncan. Plays toward the corner on the Mark Hardy giveaway, but the Kings are able to recover, and along now it comes to Kennedy. Then to Taylor. Tried for Carson, but got Ellett. Duncan across for McLean is allowed to take it by Howard Chuck. McLean moving further with Duncan breaking. The give is to Carlisle. And across to Ellett for the drive. Blocked away by Healy. Howard Chuck to Ellett again. Another shot. That one hit off Hardy. Along to play it is Duncan. Howard Chuck, the captain of the Jets, trying to pivot away from Kennedy, but can't. And it's slugged back out by Carson. Ellett connecting with Carlisle. Bob Bourne's line out now. As Mike Murphy wants to get some checking here, and Bourne can move it ahead. Nice move by Ellett. Has a man up the wing, McKenna, but a good check by Duncan. Sean McKenna, a good checker himself. Saw a good one put on by Duncan, and that's one thing that they need Duncan for on that line. The Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings, Sunday, December 6th on ESPN. The Vikings will have to hustle to tame the Bears, a top gun in the NFC Central Division. Jim McMahon, William the Refrigerator Perry will be on ESPN. Our telecast time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. You know, I mentioned McMahon and Perry because earlier in the game you mentioned the Fort Wayne Comets. Continue with that in a moment. Bourne into the corner.
Please do.
Still working. It is Steen trying to clear. That one just slugged away by Larry Playfair, and we get a stoppage of play. Puck played by a high stick, and play halted here at the Forum. 6:49 left in the second. The Jets 5 and the Kings 2.
The pride's inside.
The pride's inside Plymouth Sundance. Computer designed, laser checked. Backed for 7 years or 70,000 miles. Pride's in its value. Front wheel drive, split fold down seats, stainless steel exhaust. 47 quality standard features priced under $8,000. Plymouth Sundance. The pride's inside before you're inside.
The pride's inside. Born in America.
We focused a lot of attention on Dale Howardchuk tonight. He has a goal and an assist in the game, and he'll be Bill's intermission guest between periods, so stay with us there. Tom, of course, will be updating you on all of the NHL action. Kings 0 for 5 in their chances tonight. The Jets are perfect. The play is made to the corner, but there to read is Healy. Along for Amell, punches one that can be picked off by McBean. And McBean on now to McKenna for the clear back end that rattles along near Amell.
You notice when the Kings dump it in, how they try and get it up high. A number of times it's hit the rib that separates the panes of glass. So L.A. knows this building. They dump it in high and try and get a carom out in front.
See, they nearly got Reddick on that earlier in this period. Play sent ahead now by Duchesne, but followed up by Kite. Along for the brush in by Steen, takes a shove from Duchesne. As his defense partner, McBean, can make the play for Los Angeles. In case you're just joining us, the Kings are trailing the Jets 5-2. Just under 6 minutes to go, second period of play. Well, the Refrigerator and Jim McMahon will be appearing in Fort Wayne at Comets games this year on selected nights. They've also brought in Harry Carey of baseball fame, the Cubs announcer, to help the fans sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" one night. They're going to have a lot of fun. Fort Wayne in the IHL this year.
Pokey Reddick would still rather be in the NHL than in Fort Wayne.
Oh, yes. Puck fed back to the point to Elliott. Shovels one in front, and the save by Healy, cleared by Hammond. Dug out by Boschman. Can't reach Big Ray Neufeld in front, and the puck cleared back down by Hammond. And we'll get an icing touch-up. The puck sent from the defensive side of the red line over the opposition end line and touched by a member of that team. And all the way back, it'll come near Glenn Healy. So we should compliment the fans of the Baltimore Skipjacks because they've been turning out 2,000 to 3,000 a game to see a team that went so long. I believe it was 18 games without winning, and finally they've been rewarded. You like to see that. New Jersey's fans, the 7,000 or so that turned out in the early years when things weren't going too well, and now they're rewarded with especially strong home play from the Devils.
How about the people that are in this building? This Los Angeles Kings team has finished 4th or 5th, 6 straight seasons. Anybody that comes out and sits and watches them has definitely paid their dues. Of course, you know, they have had some very flashy, entertaining players. Now they have Carson and Robitaille. Always had Marcel Dion here.
It is Elliott keeping. Wrist shot sailed wide. Did they have the physically imposing presence? Here's Howardchuk finessing one in front, and it's skied high to the air by Carson. Puck flops further, and it is rolled along to the turning Howardchuk. Then for McLean. Chopped into the glove of Duncan. Oh, and a chance in front, and Duncan shot one that glanced wide. Howardchuk trying to work the point. Still can keep play moving. Feeds off for McLean, who one-timed it wide. Now Barry. Larry Playfair behind to get it. Bosch, or rather, McLean working him over, and so the puck can be played by Howardchuk. Howardchuk forced right back out to center ice by some aggressive checking from Hammond. And there'll be coincidental minors signaled by the referee, Paul Stewart. We take a break with 4:18 to go in the second. The Jets 5 and the Kings 2.
It's tough to keep up appearances on the road unless you pack the Steam Valet from Sunbeam. It's ready to give you that just-pressed look whenever you're pressed for time.
I'm on my way.
The Steam Valet Garment Steamer from Sunbeam.
Batteries can lose their freshness waiting to be bought. But only new Duracell battery packs have a freshness date that guarantees they're fresh. Freshness dating from Duracell.
42. Repeating Jets penalty to number 10, Dale Howardchuk.
Howardchuk is penalized for slashing and cross-checking to Hammond. Howardchuk will be Bill's guest between periods 2 and 3. Steen, Duncan, Howardchuk, Marois, and McBain, the goal scorers for the Jets tonight. Fox and Fenton for Los Angeles. It was 2-0 Winnipeg. Then the Kings tied it. And then 2 late goals in the first period by the Jets and 1 in the second. Jets seem to be settling in comfortably with this game now. Puck back down the ice for an icing touch-up by Nichols, and back near Pokey Reddick it will come. Bernie Nichols comes from a town called West Guildford in Ontario. He said, we have about 50 houses in the town. It's small. He goes back there in the summertime, doesn't seem to mind the quiet at all, but he's from a hunting and trapping family. His father had him hunting before he could even carry a weapon. At age 2, he used to take him on hunting expeditions just to make sure that he got a little bit of the atmosphere.
You know what
West
he does?
Guilford.
Every once in a while, Mike, he really surprises people. He's a great open ice body checker. He'll jump from nowhere and catch somebody right in the chest with his shoulder. And he's not noted for a physical game, but he's rugged enough to take the punishment. Every once in a while, he'll sneak up on you and just level you.
This one tips off his stick, and Brad Berry can move it ahead. So it is Healy, leaving it behind for Duchesne. Nearly smoked out by Nill, and the play comes back to Nichols. Up the left wing. Moving with it is Bobby Carpenter. Pass for Nichols is right on the money to Ellett. Off McBean. Nill trying, but recovering is Duchesne. Down to 3:25 to go in the second period. Play followed up by Nill. Once again, the Jets make a shift change as the Kings must chase. Nichols' pass goes behind the intended winger. Play will continue as Kite can work it back along to Andrew McBain. McBain's pass right to McKenna, but poked away by Steen. Thomas Steen has certainly been solid in his checking game tonight defensively for the Winnipeg Jets. And he had the first goal of this game. In deep now, Nichols checks his man, Amell. So the play is made by Ledyard. Trying to turn from the persistent checking of McBain, and Ledyard can now move it away. Knocked down at the line by Marois. Flipped right back to Mario Marois once more. And scooted back over to Kite. Jim Kite guides it along to Steen. Flops one in on Healy. Again, a shift change, Winnipeg. Non-stop play right now, but few good scoring opportunities in this period. Okie Reddick jams one away. Carlisle angles off Bourne. And again, play made by Mark Hardy. That one taken over and fed to Duncan. Good crunch by Kennedy, but a chance for McLean. And a good save by Healy.
Oh, I thought he was going to pull it to his backhand. He laid it way out to his right. Just when I thought he was going to pull it, he pulled the trigger.
In the final 2 minutes of the second period. Shots are 17-16, the Kings, but they trail in the game 5-2 as McLean lobs back in. Jets making quick changes, especially back on defense as Duncan lands one on Carson that came across to you much louder than it had force. This is Larry Playfair. Can't skid one through to Taylor. Taylor retrieves for Playfair. Robitaille, close quarters to Carson. Returns to Robitaille. Shot blocked off by Reddick. Rebound forced wide. Off Taylor by Kite. Carson in front. Robitaille score!
All alone in front, and I'm not sure he didn't get a helping deflection from Paul McLean, number 15 of the Jets, who was standing in front. The play goes behind the net. Watch Jimmy Carson come from the left. He will pick the puck from under Kite's skates. Two players turn to Carson. That leaves Robitaille all alone. Well, it looked as if it was going in anyway, but McLean did get a piece of it. Boy, heads-up play by Jimmy Carson. He just picked it and immediately went back behind the net to use it as a screen. Not one of the Jets turned around to see what was behind them. So with a minute and 21 seconds to go in this period, the Kings have a little light. They've closed the gap to 5-3.
Robitaille's 13th, Carson and Taylor getting the assist. Randy Carlisle intercepts. Play followed up, though, by Carlisle. And Larry Playfair, you just see, had a little trouble turning there. He's working in a very difficult condition, just coming back now for his second game. Had to turn on that knee. Going back to get it now is Carlisle. Pivoting is Carson, the forechecker, out in front. 50 seconds left in the second period. Don't go away, even though it's the wee hours of the morning, and it's Wednesday back east. This has had a certain element of unpredictability from midway in the first period. Winnipeg scored 2 in the first 8 minutes and 9 seconds. The King answered with a couple. And there have been strange caroms in off the goalpost near Pokey Reddick. As in with this now comes Carson. Ridden off by Kite. Kite follows up, but Carson slots. Duchesne score! And the Kings are back to within one with just 22 seconds left in the second period. Anticipation is the key. Duchesne was at the right point position, and he broke. And the pass was right to him. that found its way just outside Pokey Reddick. Jimmy Carson fed it, and Duchesne drilled it. Duchesne's 6th goal of the year, and it brings this one back to a tight one. With just 22 seconds left. Boschman wins the result. Goals just come in clusters. 2 for Winnipeg, 2 for LA, then 3 for Winnipeg, and now the Kings answer with 1. And then add another. 9 seconds left as play is halted for a face-off that will occur near Healy. Bill Sutherland, assistant coach. Dan Maloney, the coach of the Jets, motioning with his fingers, wanting to get a reading on what the perception was from up top. As you see, Mike Murphy came to the Los Angeles Kings organization 14 years ago, being traded from the New York Rangers here, and joined that impressive team that wound up producing at least 8 coaches that we could number. Maloney maintains that he got a great deal of his coaching sense from the guy for whom he played out here, Bob Fulford, also a disciplinarian type of coach. Boschman on the face-off test with Carpenter gets it in the slot. Neufeld a drive, and Healy reacted quickly on that one. Down to the last 3 seconds of the period. Nichols will try to poke it along, and then it's covered by Playfair as the horn sounds. It looked as though the Jets were just rolling along nice and easily, but the Kings came back with 2 quick ones. At 18:39, Luc Robitaille. At 19:38, Duchesne. After 40 minutes of action, it's the Jets 5 and the Kings 4.
The pride's inside.
Take an amazing voyage through Plymouth Grand Voyager and discover why the pride's inside. Beyond versatility, room for up to 8, front-wheel drive handling. Beyond the excitement of Voyager's fuel-injected V6. The best protection and highest owner satisfaction of any minivan. Deep within Plymouth Voyager, the pride's inside. Before you're inside.
The pride's inside. Born in America.
Leroy Neiman for the Sharp Color Copier.
Vivid colors have always excited me.
Now, for bright, winning colors, Sharp's advanced technology creates a full-color business copier. It copies from slides, makes transparencies, enlarges and reduces. From crisp black and white to full-color copies, you're the winner with Sharp.
Art by Neiman, color by Sharp. How do I ever get along without it?
For more information, call 1-800-B-SHARP.
The Skill Twist cordless power screwdriver. It's a new twist on an old idea.
Do you know why Spuds McKenzie has so much fun at parties? Because he's always in control. Spuds knows it's cool to live by one simple rule. Know when to say when.
A reminder from Anheuser-Busch.
Face off with the pros. Play VCR hockey with all the National Hockey League teams playing for you. Pass it. Steal it. Go to the sin bin. Freeze it. Save it. Score the hat trick with the only VCR board game licensed by the NHL. VCR hockey with the best NHL Pro highlights for hours and hours of action-packed play. Play the professional games. NHL hockey, NBA basketball, and NFL football from the VCR Sports Center.
Well, we do have quite a game shaping up for the 3rd period on the East Coast. It's already Wednesday morning, but if you're up, stay with us. It should be a fast and furious finish. 5-4 is our score. Winnipeg hanging on by their fingernails going into the 3rd period of play. One of the stars for the Winnipeg Jets, of course, is their captain, Dale Hawerchuk. He already has 1 goal and 1 assist tonight. And Dale Hawerchuk, the perennial All-Star number 10, is standing by with our Bill Clement live now at the Los Angeles Forum. So let's go there. Bill?
Thanks, Tom. You know, it's tough enough to get attention when you play for the Winnipeg Jets. It's even tougher when you're in the same division as Wayne Gretzky, and such is the case with Dale Hawerchuk, Winnipeg's superstar centerman. And Dale, all the attention seems to go to Wayne Gretzky. Does it ever bother you? 6 seasons in the National Hockey League, 5 of them with more than 100 points, yet you never seem to get the recognition that you would think you would get with those statistics.
Well, I think if you look around the league, there's a lot of good players that have put pretty good numbers up on the boards, and they don't really seem to get the recognition just due to the fact that Wayne Gretzky's in a class by himself, and he seems to be so far ahead of everybody that everybody doesn't look past him. They just look at him.
Well, one thing doesn't really seem fair. You do get attention once you hit the ice. Paul McLean was telling me about it before the game, and it's no secret that everybody tries to shut down the top lines on the opposition. That is the case. So in spite of the fact that you don't get attention, perhaps in the media, you do get it once you hit the ice, don't you?
Well, no question. I think most teams, their top line's going to get the attention from the other team's checking line, and the Jets definitely look towards our line to score goals, and so we do most of the scoring, and so we're going to get a lot of checkers, and we've been used to it, though. We've been the scoring line on this team for the last 5-6 years, and hopefully we're going to continue to be, but we're used to the checkers.
Well, you were able to get away for one tonight. We're going to try and roll it now, and maybe you can give us your thoughts on what was taking place when you scored.
It's great. It was a perfect power play. McBain moved it down to McLean, and the guy left the slot area to go down to McLean, and I was wide open. And you know, when you get a shot like that in the slot, you don't want to miss. You just want to roof it and make sure it's in the twine.
But those are the easy ones, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd take about 40 more of those right now.
Yeah. Tell me about your ability to stay on the lineup. In your 6 seasons in Winnipeg, you've only missed 1 game. Can you tell me what the key is to staying in the lineup and not being injured?
Well, I think, I'm pretty good at, a lot of guys take good runs at me, and instead of trying to size up against them because I'm not as big as they are, I'll roll off a check, and, I'm not embarrassed if the guy hits me and I fall down, so I can get back up and get back into play. But I think a lot of times if I did try and stand up to a lot of these guys on a strong hit situation, that maybe I would separate a shoulder or something like that. But it just takes just as much time to get back into play if you fall down.
Well, you're sure doing something right. Continued success, off to another good start, and I'm sure you'll quietly end up with 100 points again this season. Dale Howard-Chuck of the Winnipeg Jets, their superstar centerman, who really came to the surface of the hockey world this year during the Canada Cup.
Men, you needn't be bald any longer. You can have a natural, healthy-looking head of hair. By applying today's newest techniques, Dr. Alan Gaynor can have you growing your own hair again after only 1 visit. Through the use of Dr. Gaynor's advanced technology, the results are remarkable. Dr. Gaynor himself has had a hair transplant, and he's helped hundreds of men. Find out what he can do for you. Call Dr. Gaynor now for a complimentary consultation. Call 415-398-3388 now.
For 1,000 mornings, you hammered at the water. While others slept, you practiced. Reaching for more power, more speed. Reaching for something you could never count on. Until the moment it was won. For this and all your significant moments, Omega.
Available at Samuel's Jewelers.
You may not have thought of buying a Sears Die-Hard battery until you've had a little time alone to think about it.
Fancy perfumey aftershave. It's got to be a quarterback's locker. Real guys who get mud on their uniforms use rugged, honest stuff. Ice Blue Aqua Velva.
There's something about today's Aqua Velva man.
Look for Aqua Velva Christmas gift sets.
They're the top-ranking players in the world, competing in a tournament as prestigious as Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. See Lendl, Becker, Edberg, Connors, and more battle in the season-ending thriller. It's men's tennis at its best. The Nabisco Masters. Live December 2nd through the 7th, only on ESPN.
We have just passed the 1/4 mark in the NHL season. I know it may be tough to believe with Christmas right around the corner and everything, but it's just a little bit more than 2 months until the annual National Hockey League All-Star Game. This year, the game will be taking place at the St. Louis Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. And time to start checking out those Dodge Plymouth fan ballots for the All-Star Game in St. Louis. Let's begin with the Wales Conference. At left wing, Michel Goulet leads the vote getters of Quebec, followed by Matt Snaslin, Brian Propp, and Sylvain Turgeon of Hartford. At center, it's Mario Lemieux of Pittsburgh, followed by Peter Stastny, Marcel Dion, who's having a great year for the Rangers, and Ron Francis. At right wing, it's Claude Lemieux of the Montreal Canadiens, Kevin Dineen of Hartford right behind him, followed by Tim Kerr and Mike Gartner. The defenseman right now, it's Ray Bourque, and who can argue with that? Paul Coffey, who's off to a good start in Pittsburgh finally. He's only played a few games. Hal, Chelios, Papa, and Langway. And in goal right now, the #1 vote getter, despite the fact he sat out the first 8 games of the year and hasn't played well, Ron Hextall. Patrick Roy is second, Kelly Rudy third, and Mike Liut of Hartford is fourth. Now we're moving on to the Campbell Conference. Luke Robitaille, the LA Kings, is the leader at left wing over Glenn Anderson. Wendell Clark of Toronto and Al Secord of Toronto also there. At center, the leading vote getter, who else? Wayne Gretzky. Dale Hawerchuk will also be on the team. Dennis Savard and Doug Gilmour of St. Louis round out the top 4. On right wing, Yari Curry, who else, from Edmonton, followed by Dino Ciccarelli, Joey Mullen, and Paul McLean. And on defense, it is Doug Wilson of the Blackhawks having a banner season. Kevin Lowe, Randy Carlyle, Al McGinnis, Mario Marois, and Gary Suter round out the top vote getters there. And in goal, it's Grant Fuhr, who else, from Edmonton. Hokie Reddick is in second spot from Winnipeg. You're seeing him tonight. Mike Brennan of Calgary and Rick Wamsley of the St. Louis Blues. And don't forget, ESPN will be your headquarters for All-Star coverage, the NHL All-Star Game, February 9th, 8 o'clock Eastern, from the St. Louis Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. We are just moments away from an exciting third period in L.A. The Jets lead the Kings by a score of 5-4.
Come in. You see this gorgeous dining room all ready for you.
Yes, Angelo's is ready with lunch and dinner 7 days a week, including special dishes such as calamari Grecian style, chicken feta, and our famous Greek salad. And remember, Angelo's popular sunset dinners are only $7.95 every Monday through Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. For steak, pasta, and seafood, dine in the pleasant surroundings of Angelo's, home of the finest food in San Jose.
I don't feel comfortable taking my Nissan to just anybody. So I take it to my authorized Nissan dealer, where customer satisfaction is their #1 concern. Lloyd Wise Nissan's technicians will fix your car right the first time by installing genuine Nissan parts. For quality and custom fit, nobody beats their selection of genuine Nissan accessories.
Mention the Stevie offer and receive 15% off all parts and labor on any repair.
For prompt, reliable service and genuine Nissan parts, see Lloyd Wise Nissan in San Leandro.
Counts on his defensemen to keep the net clear and give him a good view of the puck. That's team hockey. I'm Lou Nanny, and 400,000 Americans with retinitis pigmentosa, RP, also get help from a team. The RP Foundation Fighting Blindness. They're researching for the cause, treatment, and prevention of this hereditary eye disease. We are counting on the RP team because saving sight is one of the greatest saves you can make. For more information, call 1-800-638-2300.
3 other games tonight in the National Hockey League. Let's go to the scoreboard where the Vancouver Canucks, starting an Eastern Road swing, beat the Quebec Nordiques tonight. The final there was 3-1. All the goals in the first period for Vancouver. Benning, Boyd, and Smeal doing the job. Kirk McLean also was excellent in goal for the Vancouver Canucks. Edmonton loses to Washington for the 6th time in their last 7 games against the Caps. Caps win at 4-2. Bengt Gustafsson 2 goals, but Rod Langway, the All-Star defenseman, announced before the game he will miss 8 weeks with a ruptured disc in his back. Toronto and Minnesota, well, the Minnesota North Stars got a Brian Bellows goal with 19 seconds left in the game to tie it. Bellows scored in overtime to win it. Minnesota over Toronto by a score of 3-2. Now, our game, Winnipeg and the LA Kings, at one point, the Jets had a 5-2 lead in the second period, but here come the Kings. Andrew McBain carries into the Kings zone. Actually, this is the Winnipeg Jets. McBain draws out Melanson and scores, and that made it 5-2. And meanwhile, Melanson was lifted from the nets. Glenn Healy was put in. Late in the second period, Jimmy Carson to an open Luke Robitaille. There's Carson, Robitaille in the slot. Are you kidding me? Where's the defense? That made it 5-3. Less than a minute later, Steve Duchesne scored to make it 5-4. So it is Winnipeg hanging on to a 5-4 lead over the Los Angeles Kings in a rather interesting Smythe Division battle. If the Kings win, they'll be right up there, right on the tail of the Winnipeg Jets. We'll be back for the exciting third period from L.A. in a moment.
It's time for Lifestyles of the Original Party Animal with the Grand Poobah of Partyometry, Bud Light's own Spuds McKenzie, as he's planning tonight's Big Bash. His fans watch as he tans his way to party elegance, a facial and massage, and Spuds McKenzie is ready to party. And Spuds parties with only Bud Light. He knows everything else is just alike.
You give your all you do. Don't settle for less from your shampoo. Wash and go Pert Plus.
Ordinary shampoo can't give you this kind of manageability. You need Pert Plus with a unique combination of effective shampoo for cleaning plus conditioner for control all in one. For great, easy-to-manage hair, it's one of a kind.
Just one shampoo does it all for you. Wash and go.
With shampoo, conditioner in one.
Pert Plus.
ESPN and Thrifty Car Rental World Tour Sweepstakes want to take you to Hawaii in February. 10 lucky couples will go to Honolulu for an all-expense-paid week of sun and fun, including tickets to the NFL Pro Bowl. To enter, watch NFL Primetime Sunday nights and NFL Monday nights to catch the winning slogan. Pick up your entry form at participating Thrifty Car Rental locations or write the slogan on a card with your name and address and mail to World Tour Sweepstakes, Post Office Box 912, Ridgely, Maryland, 21683. If you're an ESPN and Thrifty Car Rental World Tour winner, Continental Airlines will fly you and a guest to Honolulu, where you'll enjoy a week of sun, surf, and Pro Bowl festivities. Whenever you travel, use Thrifty's convenient service in over 650 locations worldwide. Experience the driving luxury of Chrysler cars. Thrifty, near the airport, not near the price. So send your entry in today and join the World Tour in Hawaii.
Michael Chang is a high school sophomore playing on the pro circuit. Is he the future of American tennis? Hi, I'm Chris Fowler. That's on this week's ESPN Scholastic Sports America Wednesday.
The NHL on ESPN is brought to you by the crisp, clean, imported taste of Labatt's Blue. It's blue heaven. And by Kendall Motor Oil for protection worth its weight in gold. And by AT&T, the right choice. Well, you've made the right choice tonight. The NHL tonight on ESPN. It's Winnipeg 5, the LA Kings 4. We're set for the third period. Let's rejoin Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
Thank you, Tom. Teams will be at full and equal strength when this period gets started. In the first period, there were a lot of power plays. In the second, only a couple. But the Jets have had the strength on the power play, connecting twice tonight. Not too many good scoring opportunities in the second period. The shots in that period even at 8.
But there were some classic defensive lapses that left people all alone, and that has been the story of the game. Most of the goals that were scored came as a result of an area of the ice being left unprotected, a real vulnerable area of the ice. Can go back and think of 3 or 4 instances specifically. So it hasn't been end-to-end type rushes. Both teams have committed terrible defensive errors once the other team is set up in their zone.
You have to wonder what might have been said between periods. I'm sure it's tighten up, guys, tighten up. There are times that things just get so loose out there, and we've seen that tonight. 9 goals scored in the first 40 minutes.
You know,
go ahead.
I was going to say checking and playing defensive hockey. I talked to Mike Murphy at length about this last week. It has to be as important to you as putting the puck in the net. And that's something that Los Angeles is not gifted with players that feel it's as important to keep the puck out of the net. You take a look at Bernie Nichols, Jimmy Fox, Jimmy Carson, Luc Robitaille. People like this are always used to being the top scorers in the teams that they've played on. So it's difficult for them to attach as big a priority on keeping the puck out of their net. And that's what LA has fought over the years. With Winnipeg, it's a mystery. They're just going up and down all season long.
Jet defense has been their pride in the past and has been their albatross this year. As it is Jim Fox's line out to begin this period for the Kings, and Fox himself chips to the corner to play it as Brad Barry. Boschman's line with Smale and Ray Neufeld out for the Winnipeg Jets. Smale starts after it. Bear hugs with a man, and will it cost Smale or will it cost Duchesne?
I think it will probably cost Duchesne because Duchesne lost his stick and he didn't have much choice. He held on to Smale as they were going into the corner. If he lets Smale go, all of a sudden Duchesne doesn't have a stick. Here's a look at it. Smale trying to get around. There goes Duchesne's stick.
Los Angeles penalty is number 20, Steve Duchesne. 2 minutes for holding.
That's just good hustle by Smale, number 9 from Winnipeg. In trying to get around Duchesne, Duchesne loses his stick. That's, Playfair did that, I think, in the first goal of the game. He lost his stick, and then Gilles Hamel came up with it in the neutral zone. Mike
Murphy might be advised to get the stick him out or get some tape out and start taping hands to sticks. You just can't drop your stick and hope to be effective. Like a fish on the dock out of water.
Third power play for Winnipeg. They've connected on the previous two. Ellett can't control. He and Randy Carlyle will work the points. They have Howard-Chuck and McLean out with Big Andrew McBain up front. And with it now comes Carlyle. Feeds over for Ellett. Has Howard-Chuck breaking. Slugs one off McBean. Howard-Chuck out in front, and McLean checked by Bourne. Ellett spins it back over for McLean. To Ellett once more, side of the net. Howard-Chuck tried for the tip, but it was off Healy. McLean looks, has McBain, but interceding is Hardy. Carlyle wraps, McLean moves to it. Little nudge over to Howard-Chuck, then to the back to Ellett. Knocked down in front is McLean. Paul Stewart watching. Back it comes from Howard-Chuck to Ellett. Howard-Chuck again. Couldn't get it set. McBain once, then a second time, trying to force it further, and it is Bob Bourne wanting to work for Kudelski, but it's cut off by Ellett. 1:03 gone on the penalty. 1:37 gone here in the third. 5-4 Winnipeg. And a breakup by Carpenter to Kudelski and back again to Carpenter. Checked off by Ellett, and so it's Howard-Chuck's play. Has Carlyle breaking, gives to McLean, head man for Carlyle, but the play offside.
You think that man knew? Think he knew his way around the penalty box? Well, he didn't change his style any. He played that way when he played junior hockey in London, Ontario. Played with the Blackhawks and the LA Kings.
Bill, I wonder if a player who racks up penalty minutes like that when he plays has a little more respect that he has to earn when he leaves the playing ranks and becomes a coach than a guy who might have been a big scorer or maybe a goaltender during his time. I just wonder if maybe the public doesn't expect that he's going to do as well and maybe has to work a little harder.
I don't know. I think the public's smart enough to go back and take a look at all of the great scorers and great players that went on to be just disastrous coaches. There seems to be absolutely no correlation between the brilliant, say, skilled players, offensive players, and great coaches, to the point that I don't think anybody expects it. And a guy like Maloney would have I think, a bigger advantage in the public's eye going into coaching, since he was such a hard worker and a defensive-oriented guy, than, say, a big scorer.
Play move back out. Ellett on with 15 seconds left on this power play. Cross right, Steen with a drive, and that one ricocheted off the glass. Tripped up is Laurie Boschman. 5 seconds left on the power play. Offside called at the Kings line. No, it's interesting. Maloney doesn't really work on specialty teams that much, and his team tonight has been successful. He said, I spend 15 minutes each practice, and that's it, on specialty teams, in a year in which Mike Murphy has said, I do a lot of practice on power play and penalty killing because there's so much of it.
Yeah. And in a year where Mike Keenan of the Flyers says, I do virtually nothing with the specialty teams, or at least during their skid when they were going so poorly. He said, no, the thing to do is just to leave it alone. And Bob Murdoch of the Chicago Blackhawks says, I started working on it the first day of camp. That's what Murdoch told me. But he said, I teach tendencies and the player's ability to read a certain situation and then react to it. I don't want to go in with set plays as much as I do players that are able to read the situation and react to it.
Smale wraps. Merwa is there. Penalty time is up. It is Smale. Has Neufeld, but that one blocked aside by Healy. Still it's play. Trying to get away. Out to the front. Cleared. Tight. Able to hold in. Back for Laurie Boschman, who was doing that work a moment ago. Misses for Neufeld. Gets Carson. Lobs one across, and Dave Taylor moves on Kite. Taylor continues, and then Kite with the reach to knock it away. Jets try to clear. Along it is Taylor, forcing the Jets deep once more. Merwa back up to Neufeld. And Ray Neufeld unwinds from 70 into the glove of Healy. Howard-Chuck's line is out on a Winnipeg shift change giveaway. Howard-Chuck couldn't get the big shot going. And it is Kennedy, forced off by the checking of Duncan. Starting back, it is Hammond. Pass just casually tipped back along by Ellett. Flipped back out, but turned cross ice now for Bernie Nichols break from the bench. Nichols taken out by Howard-Chuck, who looked right at Paul Stewart, who said, no, I don't think so. So it's Hammond striding back for the Kings with 16:15 to go in the third. A 5-4 game in favor of Winnipeg. Duncan forced deep by Hammond. Hammond and Duncan tie up once more, and the third man along is Kennedy, and it's sealed up in the cluster, so we'll have a stoppage of play for a face-off with 16:01 to go, third period. Still a one-goal game. The Jets 5 and the Kings 4.
Blue. When whippoorwills call,
Labatt's blue.
evening is nigh.
Blue heaven.
I hurry to my
Smooth.
Clean. Crisp.
Labatt's blue.
a turn to the right.
Imported beer from Canada.
We'll lead you to my
Labatt's blue. Yeah.
heaven.
Bill, earlier we were talking about the types of teams that the Kings have had. Have they been physically opposing over the years at all?
No, I think durable would be a better word to describe some of the LA Kings teams. I don't ever remember a team that they've had here being an intimidating team, a team that really made you think twice about coming in here to play them. But guys like Bob Murdoch and Bob Barry and Terry Harper when he was here and Mike Corrigan, these were guys that didn't dish out that much punishment, but paid the price when they had to and played a durable style of hockey.
Robitaille, big drive, and that one off the mark. They start back out, and it's McBain to Steen and back to Andrew McBain. Looks to the slot. Amel drives one that flaps out of play. And so Healy will see a faceoff come right near him here. Healy having coming on in relief of Roland Melanson shortly after goal number 5 was scored by the Jets. They still have 5, but the Kings have gotten 2 to draw back to within 1. Another collegian out of Western Michigan University. Spent time the last 2 years toiling for the New Haven Nighthawks.
Had a lot of ice time down there too, didn't he? Played most of the games for each of those 2 years for the Nighthawks.
Interesting story. That franchise salvaged by the board chairman living in a doghouse on top of the Coliseum and saying, I'm not coming down until I sell 1,300 season tickets. And by George, he did it. And he didn't come down. He left via a helicopter. Joel Schiavone, his name. For that reason, the Nighthawks are still in business, and they're still developing future Kings. As you see Larry Playfair jawing. It is Ellett across to Carlisle. Drive blocked off by Taylor and out of play.
Yeah, Larry Playfair was arguing the point that Jimmy Carson had been thrown out of the faceoff circle. That left Robitaille to come in, and as you saw, the Winnipeg Jets simply stripped the draw away from Robitaille and it went back to the point. Randy Carlisle had a shot blocked. It's a crucial area of the ice to be thrown out of the faceoff circle. You'd expect the smarter coaches, if they had a goal lead, mind you, the Kings are trailing here, and the faceoff is in their end, but if they were leading by a score of 5-4, it'd be an important time of the game, any time in the third period, to get a second centerman out there, so that if a guy like Carson right there is waved, you've got a second guy that can move in there and take the faceoff that knows what he's doing.
Kings will make a change now and bring out Carpenter along with Nichols. So in essence, they have a couple who have both played center in their timeout right now. That's Brad Lazarowicz, young linesman from Vancouver in his second year, just 25. Mike Murphy talking to the other linesman, Mark Vine. John McCauley supervising here tonight. Said that really our total of penalties called hasn't really gone up that much over last year. It's just that it's been a noticeable attention paid to the power play opportunities, especially 5-on-3s, which are decidedly up. Puck angled back in, driven back along as they try to turn it to Neufeld. Able to outlet, starting further with it and dropping it back in is Duncan. Set up by Healy, handled by Duchesne. In case you're just joining us, Kings and the Winnipeg Jets from the Forum in Inglewood, California. 5-4, third period lead for Winnipeg. They had a 2-0 lead, saw it tied, got 3 more to go ahead, 5-2, and the Kings got 2 late goals, 59 seconds apart, late in the second period to draw back to within 1, and that's where we are right now. There's only been 2 shots on goal in the first 5.5 minutes of this period. Both of them coming off King sticks. Drilled along for Neufeld. Checked by Fenton, but Neufeld able to get it to Boschman. Then a pass that went through Smale. Duels with Hammond. Boschman a drive, and that ricocheted off McKenna. They try to center for Neufeld, and Boschman rolled one that's tipped away by Healy. Angled around for Bradbury, but the play followed up and carried back out by Hammond. Hammond slides it along for McKenna, moves in the shadow of Nichols and tried the pass for him that was behind. Nichols takes it right away from Smale, ducks a check attempt at center ice by Boschman, and then puts it back in. Clock ticks down to under 14 minutes left in this third period as the Jets start to move it back out. Dave Ellett took the check but got the puck to Hawerchuk. Ruled down and then throws Duchesne away. Fans want a penalty here, but the puck cleared back out where Duncan can work it ahead, though he gave it up to Bob Bourne. Bourne marches on Ellett, tries to control, and is sealed up by Ellett. Squibs one for Fenton. Fenton dueling there with Dale Hawerchuk, who's in deep. Hooked at by Fenton, but he controls off McLean. McBean had already committed himself and couldn't take, and it is McLean rolling for Duncan. Bumps with Duchesne, can't force it to the front. And again, the Kings loft back out. Pivoting with it is Randy Carlyle. Shift change on for Los Angeles. They have Carson and Robitaille out right now. Back to get it, Mark Hardy. Hardy looks toward Robitaille and drops one along to him. Robitaille's play, handcuffed Carson at the line. It's drilled back in now by Dave Taylor, and Carson rushes to it. Feeds it back for Playfair, who has trouble handling. Then along with it is Steen, but loses just that quickly to Robitaille. It's Carlyle back. Little pass on to Steen, and Steen drills in.
You know, after sagging in the second period and giving up those 2 goals, Winnipeg now seems to be playing as strong a defensive game as they have the entire game. And it's perfect time for it. They don't want to go into a shell, and they seem to be protecting their own blue line now better than they have the entire game.
Ellett's shot on goal is saved. There'll be a penalty coming up, and the call is high-sticking. Winnipeg will get a power play. 12:17 to go in the third. It's the Jets 5 and the Kings 4.
Of miles and millions of cars, more of them every year. They're riding on Kendall Motor Oil. That's what I hear.
Every year, people like racing champion Big Daddy Don Garlitz rely on the protection and quality of Kendall Motor Oil.
Don Garlitz and Kendall Motor Oil, year after year.
Kendall, protection worth its weight in gold for more than 100 years.
Hardy a high stick at 7:43, and so the Jets will go on the power play. And they'll use Hawerchuk. Why not? McLean and McBain.
Well, Mark Hardy didn't have any extra friends to spare coming into this game in the stands tonight. They have just been on his case the entire game.
Power play 4 for Winnipeg. Gives us a chance to set the Kings defensively. They have McBean and Duchesne out on defense, with Bourne up front along with Kadelski. Pass could not be reached by Hawerchuk. And down to get it is Duchesne. And while on the power play, the Jets are guilty of icing. So back it'll come near Redding.
Well, you can tell Mike Murphy is ready to do just about anything to try and pick up his penalty killing. He's got Steve Duchesne out there. He's a second-year man. Bob Kadelski's a rookie. McBain on defense is a rookie. Of course, Bob Bourne has been around the NHL since the beginning of time. But in general, 3 of these 4 penalty killers haven't been around the NHL that long.
That's a pretty good mustache, wouldn't you say, Bill? Can't see it as well with that visor on.
Well, you know, he's from a small town in Nova Scotia called Antigonish, and he thinks he might go back and become a lobster trapper or a lobster fisherman when he retires. And doesn't he look the part? Can't you see him with a big old raincoat on, sitting in the bow of a boat, breaking waves as they crash in towards the rocks of Antigonish, Nova Scotia?
You paint quite a picture, William. On with this comes McBain. Moves in, gets some room, leaves for McLean. Minute 25, plenty of time on the power play for the Jets. Puck fed over to the turning McBain. Drifting to the front is McLean. At the back now it is Ellett. Across to Carlyle. Then to Ellett. He can bring it, but won't this time. Now risks one that glanced off Duchesne and was wide. Duchesne checks with McLean. Puck lofted back out, and so again, the Jets must chase as their penalty time is half over.
The kids did a good job of defending that. Winnipeg ended up in an umbrella with 1 man in the center and 2 guys on either side. They kept moving it back and forth. Los Angeles just wouldn't give into it. They wouldn't move out of position. Here comes Nichols on a breakaway. Score! what a big one by the Jets. Bernie Nichols is going the right way. As far as the LA Kings are concerned, he intercepted the pass at the blue line and came right in, just deposits it nicely between Eldon Reddick's legs. And all of a sudden, we have a 5-5 hockey game. And you know, that'll go down as a great goal for Bernie Nichols. But if he misses that play, he is stuck going the wrong way, while the entire Jets team is going the other way. So a calculated risk that really worked for Bernie Nichols that time.
Number 9 has goal number 9. Short-handed and unassisted at 8:54.
And that, if I'm correct, is the 9th time that the Winnipeg power play has been scored against short-handed this year. They lead the National Hockey League. And at the worst time of this game, that statistic comes back to haunt them.
A check thrown by Nichols, and he musters one out in front. Boy, do the fans light up to that. Ahead with it now is Neufeld. Bounces one in. Healy leaves. McBean over skates. With it is Boschman. Flips one in front that Steen couldn't handle. And it is Carpenter clearing it out of play.
You know, I'm not sure, but I think Nichols came off the bench on that particular play. And I'm wondering how he could move into the middle of the ice and catch somebody napping. You know, it's a perfect example of a statement that you can never be too careful when you're bringing the puck up the ice. If somebody decides that they're going to get in between you and the guy you're passing to and cut it off, you can see what happened. Nichols was so all alone. He could have gotten his own rebound two or three times there.
He is back at the bench, as you see. Shift change on for the penalty-killing Kings. They still have 22 seconds to stave off here with 10:35 to go in the third period. Duchesne wraps it by Kudelski, kept by Ellett. It is Steen finessing one over to Boschman. Pestered by McBean, but Boschman can feed back to Ellett. Then over to Marois. Angles one along toward the corner. Ray Neufeld turn. Bumped for his trouble by Duchesne. And Duchesne nicely able to poke it away. Out of the penalty box now is Hardy, as the teams are back at even strength, and the Kings have not only killed it off, but they scored one to tie the game. 10:05 left in the third. Neufeld trying to wedge him off was McBean, and help came from Kudelski. Able to force it back down. There'll be an icing call, as back to get this one is Randy Carlyle. Puck touched. 9:50 left in the third. The game tied at 5.
Thank you.
Kent Avery. Big promotion, important project. You're really on the go.
Next step, VP.
But didn't your client just stop you from using her phone?
Oh, minor faux pas.
Once she found out that you were calling Nome, Alaska?
Well, at least I asked.
Kent, you should have used your AT&T card.
Really?
With your AT&T card, almost any phone becomes your phone. Just dial 0 plus the number you're calling, then your card number, and your call is billed to your phone.
Great concept.
To get the AT&T card, dial 1-800-CALL-ATT.
They're wired back into this one just as their team is. 5-5 tie. Bernie Nichols with the goal, and the only shot on goal that the Kings have had this period has tied the game. Just over halfway through this period, puck driven along for Nichols, sidled up to by McLean, and the play made to Carpenter. Crosses with Fox, lays one for that corner. Fox goes in along with Carlyle. Still they battle, and Duncan comes along, but played it right into Carpenter. This is Jim Fox. Fox bumped off by Carlyle. Puck flipped along by McLean. Hardy and McLean fight for possession. Ahead with it is Duncan, but Howard-Chuck didn't see the pass coming. Carpenter drills it up the board, but it's Howard-Chuck to McLean in front. Oh! And that one seemed to be going by Healy, but was blocked off. Dumped right back in by the Kings. They make a shift change, bringing out Robitaille Carson. But we get a stoppage of play. Icing is called, and back it'll come near Healy. 9 minutes even to go in the third, and who'd have thought when this game was 5-2 and everything seemed to be favoring the Jets.
Here's the last scoring chance by Winnipeg's Paul McLean. He really didn't get that much wood on it.
Ooh, he got the post.
Boy, he sure did. It must have come out of Hammond, number 39, and been difficult for Melanson to pick up because he really didn't react to it. You know, we talked a lot about the Los Angeles Kings and their history, and if they were tough, if they were offensive, defensive, they sure have traded away a lot of their future over the last 12 to 15 years. When we get a chance to go over some of the names with the first-round draft picks, they've given away and who they turned out to be.
Larry Playfair took the hit. Merwa went cross ice with it. It's drilled back in by McBain. Healy slows it. It's played by Playfair. Bumped though by Steen. Puck wrapped along to Taylor. Taylor fans on one attempt, then tried to connect with Robitaille, but in the way Amel. It is bottled up now by Playfair. Works it on to Carson to Playfair. A drive! And that one saved by Reddick. Back up with it comes Steen. Moving with Amel. Can't force it through the defense, and Playfair just throws Steen away. And here's a chance for Carson. Save Reddick. Rebound. Robitaille drilled it wide. Furious action now. Puck kept by Duchesne at the line. No, the linesman says not. What a pair of chances.
Great save by Reddick on Jimmy Carson.
8:11 to go in the third. The timpani is building a crescendo to a cymbal crash.
Blue. Blue heaven.
I heard tonight. Blue heaven.
Labatt's blue.
A turn to the right will lead you to mine.
Imported beer from Canada.
My blue heaven, my blue heaven.
You know, you really wouldn't expect breakaways at this stage of the game, especially with the score tied 5-5. There was a breakaway that tied the game. Bernie Nichols had one, and Jimmy Carson just went in all alone. Reddick made an excellent save, and somehow that man, Luc Robitaille, number 20 for the Kings, missed the gaping net. I'm not sure, Mike, that somebody wasn't hooking on him and pulling him just at the crucial moment to throw him off balance and make him shoot wide.
Well, we hope you're enjoying this one. What a comeback by the Kings. They're down 5-2 midway in the second. Robitaille and Duchesne score late in the second. Then Nichols midway in the third, shorthanded and unassisted for this 5-5 tie. 8:05 left in the third. Brad Barry goes back and ties up Bob Bourne so that Ellett can play on defense. Cleared it right into the forechecker. Tries again, and this time it's Fenton. Wants one for Bourne, but it can't be reached. Flung away by Ellett. Smale bounces one to center ice, and along for it came Neufeld. Good play, not once but twice, made by Hardy, and then spirited a pass off Fenton. Set up by Reddick, dropped along by Brad Barry, along to Ellett, and then Barry took the check from Fenton. Ahead with it is Boschman. Watching is Healy. You may be able to overhear him directing traffic on the defense. Back through with it now. Moving on is McKenna. Tosses one that may be read by the defense, but no, it's Carpenter putting one in on goal. Every play seems an adventure. Centering pass blocked off by Carlisle. Carpenter tries to take, still fighting with Boschman. Puck held by Duchesne. Drive, trickle, in on goal after a deflection and turned away. Nichols fights off with Carlisle. Pinching along is Hammond trying to joust it free. And it is McLean back across to Merwa and back out now to Smale. Smale working off Duchesne. Banks one in that Healy is out to play. Just a little pass to Hammond that may have scared the Kings fans. Puck turned back along to center ice as we're down to 6:40 to go in regulation time. Bear in mind that if you don't see NHL hockey too often, we do have sudden death overtime of 5 minutes duration if they're tied after 60. Robitaille to Hammond, the shot, and that one saved by Reddick. Back ahead with it comes Howardchuk. Along now for McBain, but slugged along by Fox. Howardchuk wants to start back in. Pass cut off by Hammond and flipped back down. Icing touch-up made by Ellen. 6:11 to go in the third. Still knotted at 5.
Pamela Hall, top buyer, around-the-world trips. You call your own shots.
It's fun.
But weren't you just caught trying to call America from Paris?
A silly misunderstanding.
By stuffing Greek drachma into a French phone?
I thought they'd fit.
Damn. You need the AT&T card.
Oh?
With the AT&T card, you never need coins, even overseas. Your calls are billed automatically to your phone back home.
Beautiful.
So you'll take it, Pam?
It's the perfect accessory.
To get the AT&T card, dial 1-800-CALL-ATT.
Shots on goal in the third. Los Angeles 8, Winnipeg 1. if our math is correct, Bill. I've given up figuring my own taxes, but I think I can get this one. 17 Los Angeles through 2 periods, and they have 8 here in the third for 25. We have one board in front of us that changes a little less rapidly than one at the end, so we'll verify with that one. And yes, it is 1 Winnipeg shot on goal in the period. And at the time Nichols scored at 8:54, it was Los Angeles' first shot. Thomas Steen will have McBain on his right. Amel now on the left. And the face-off controlled by Carson to Hardy. Wraps it along for Dave Taylor. Handcuffed Carlisle. And so deep on the play is Marois. Connects with McBain. Outletted along for Amel. And it's sent in for Healy to handle, but it's off his stick. In deep is McBain. Took the check from Larry Playfair. Trying to get to the front was Yarvenpaugh, and that one trickled through Playfair. Big Larry Playfair walks it out in front and then throws one to Robitaille. Sets it up to Taylor and then to Carson, who leads for Taylor. Wrist shot is saved by Reddick, and the rebound picked up by Amel. Down to 5:30 to go in regulation time of this 5-5 game. And the puck iced by Marois. There'll be another stoppage of play. More shift changes, and the score remains a fistful of beef. May not be terribly artistic, but it hasn't been dull.
Anytime the game is close, the struggle on the ice is much greater than if the score was lopsided. We all benefit from it, sitting here being able to watch it. I'll tell you what, none of the defensemen on either team in the last couple of minutes has taken the easy way. Bodies now are starting to fly. I mean, a missed check, a missed assignment could lead to the goal that wins this hockey game, and nobody wants to be the GOAT. So everybody finally, at this stage of the game, with 5 minutes and 21 seconds to go, each guy is doing his job out there.
On the face-off with Boschman. One to Brad Berry. Then to Ellick. Connects with Smale, but he can't with Boschman. Thrown back in by McKenna. And so Reddick sets it up once more for Ellick. Benton in deep, but that one went right through him to McLean, who can start back up ice with it. McLean now has his regular winger, Howardchuk. Line mate, I should say, and Duncan out on. They've tried 5 men at that left wing position, and Duncan is the one they've settled on for tonight, and probably for a while. Dan Maloney quite happy with him, especially his throwing ability to work the corners. And it is Duncan who will start back out. Off by Benton. Loud crash, and it's Hardy. Cross ice for McKenna to clear in. Delayed penalty call coming up. It is Hardy controlling, still pivoting with it. The call will be on Winnipeg as Hardy fires, stick save, rebound, sent wide, and Carson, angry, hammers his stick on the ice as he got the tip he wanted, but couldn't send it home. Power play coming up to the Kings with 4:24 to go in the third, 5-5.
Blue. Whippoorwills call.
Labatt's blue.
Evening is nigh.
Blue heaven.
I hurry to my
Smooth.
Clean. Crisp.
Labatt's blue.
A turn to the right.
Imported beer from Canada.
Will lead you to my
Labatt's blue. Yeah.
heaven.
Well, there sits Ian Duncan. That gives Los Angeles Kings, well, a golden opportunity. There's no other way to describe it. 4 minutes and 24 seconds to go. And you know, it was Duncan's retaliation on a clean hit by Paul Fenton that led to that. A rookie's mistake that's got the Jets in a hole here.
Nichols, a shot knocked down. Brought back by Marois, sends it to length. Wilson and Smale are now up front for the penalty-killing Jets. Kite and Marois in back. The puck controlled by Nichols. He'll work the point with Hardy. Up front, they have Robitaille, Carson, and Taylor. Kite chops it back further, and so Nichols must turn with 4 minutes to go in regulation time. Hope you're enjoying this one tonight. Kings and Jets are tied at 5. Taylor sets it up for Carson. Rolls one behind to Robitaille. Escapes the check of Marois. Robitaille points it back to Hardy. Slides it over to Nichols. Nichols tried to risk one, knocked down by Wilson, and lifted back further.
You know, somebody's got to get over there for Bernie Nichols. He had absolutely no outlet pass along the right board, so he tried to just shovel it through towards the net. That's how the pass got cut. Got to give him an out along the board.
In with it is Taylor. Leaned on by Steen. Shoved off. Taylor wanted to one-hand for Robitaille and got the job done to Nickel. Has Hardy. Fires himself, and it's tipped away by Reddick. 50 seconds left on the power play. Puck popped high, but to center ice. Hardy must play. Over to Nickel. Along for Robitaille. It's chopped by Carlisle. Plenty of time and plenty of room for McBain. Wilson on a short shift comes back out with Smale now. They were relieved midway in this power play. They had started it. Kite and Marois on the defense as Bobby Carpenter moves in. Carpenter yanks it over. Robitaille scores!
Doesn't get much prettier than this. Watch Bobby Carpenter's pass first to Jimmy Fox here. Behind the back. Fox then will make a move to his backhand right there. Feed Robitaille in the slot. Reddick doesn't even have close to a chance to get back into the middle of his net. That has to be the responsibility and the assignment of someone else in the slot. Robitaille snapped it. Had the whole net to shoot at. And with 2:45 to go, the Kings lead by 1.
Down 5-2. They've got 4 unanswered goals. That one drilled in from center ice. And the Jets are still sitting at 1 shot on goal in this period. But ahead with it comes Howardchuk. Has McLean on the wing. Tries to fight his way by the defense. Can't do it. He and Duchesne bumping along the way. And then Howardchuk, an extra shot. Back through comes Bob Bourne. Dumps it in, shift change on. Fox and Carpenter, Nichols, McBean, and Hardy are the Kings out to defend as Duncan slugs it back in, but the play goes offside. 2 minutes, 11 seconds to go in the third. It's the Kings 6 and the Jets 5.
Little by little, Dan Maloney has seen his 5-2 lead turn into a 5-3 lead, a 5-4 lead. The game was subsequently tied, and now the Kings have gone ahead and lead at 6-5. We're down to 2 minutes and 11 seconds to go, and referee Paul Stewart has just handed out a couple of coincidentals here. One to Bobby Carpenter, the other one to Dale Howardchuk. Here's another look at the goal. Great pass by Carpenter, but you got to wonder who's watching the guy in the slot. There's Ron Wilson. He turns to go with Fox. Number 9 is Smale, who is standing there. Boy, Robitaille sure timed it well coming through the slot.
Tripping to Carpenter, high sticking to Howardchuk. And the Jets are without their big gunner for 2 minutes of the last 2:11 of regulation time. And they need 1 to force overtime as Kudelski forces them back. Play made by Mario Marois. Along to McLean, checked by Kudelski, but it's played back through by Steen. Healy leads. McBean hustling after it. Turn one for Barry and a shot. Hopped off Hardy, who's able to steer it back along. There'll be a penalty coming up. Delayed call is on. It's touched by the Kings, and so it's going to be a hold, and Winnipeg will get a power play with 1:29 to go.
This is going to be interesting right down to the wire. Minute 29 seconds to go in the game. And now Winnipeg has a bit of life breathed back into their lungs.
31. Timeout is called by the Jets. Timeout Winnipeg. Repeating, Kings penalty to number 21.
Take a look at it here.
2 minutes for holding time.
There's the big hold in front. Paul Stewart's called a pretty good game tonight. He hasn't let much go. He's called it when he's had to. He's never shied away from making a tough call, even right down to the wire here.
John McCauley was saying today the one thing that we're criticized for that we on the officiating staff are trying to solve this year is the criticism that we call it differently in the third than we do in the first. And here's a good example. Boy, another thing you've noticed is we mentioned 5-on-3s used to be that if you had one man short, chances are you could hack and hold and get away with quite a bit before they put you too short.
Right.
But not anymore. This year, there's been a lot of 5-on-3s, and though not the percentage that you'd think, a good percentage of them scored upon, about 20%, which is normal.
You know, Dan Maloney just called that timeout. I'm kind of surprised he didn't either bring Pokey Reddick over to the bench or have somebody skate down. There he stands. You got to figure that sooner or later they're going to pull him, but there's been no communication unless they have some kind of set signal. But I'm sure Reddick would like to know at this stage of the game when Dan Maloney wants him out.
They're 2 for 4, the Jets are tonight. But they trail by 1, and they don't have Howardchuk right now. He'll come back with 11 seconds to go in regulation. Puck comes to Carlisle. Then over for the spin to the corner by Neufeld. They flip one for McLean, but it is cut off by Bourne. Loose one is jammed to the side of the net, and holding on is Healy.
Boy, he had some help from Bob Bourne, who sagged right back into the side of the net. It was Bourne that was in doing a lot of the trench work right around the net. Keep in mind, he's a forward. We said it before, that box has to be like Jello. It has to move back and forth. It doesn't have rigid points, rigid sides, or rigid corners. When somebody moves, everybody has to move.
It'd be interesting to note, you mentioned earlier, with Reddick off and the net yawning open, 4 beat by 6. That the Jets will be going with 6 men. We all want to look to, you pointed up earlier, the types of players that Mike Murphy is going to in critical situations. You see Mark Hardy with the experience out on defense now. Bob Bourne, the experience, sent him in to take this draw. But it's won by Boschman. Back to Ellett. Drive, and a stick save made by Healy. Carlisle fights it on back to McBain. A shot blocked off by Healy. 1:02 to go. Puck flipped back along behind the net. Looking it over to Steen. Back to Ellett. Fires into a crowd, and it may have ricocheted off the goalpost. Puck dug back out by Steen. Points it back to Ellett. Shot. Tip. Score! A power play goal by the Jets has tied it at 6 with 50 seconds to go. Incredible.
Well, they kept making the smart play, just directed to the net. Obviously, Maloney said, guys, you've got to crowd around the net. So any chance Winnipeg seemed to get, they just drive it at the net. Didn't even try and get that much wood on it at different times. You can see that Ellett just makes a little wind-up and just wants to get it towards the net. He knows he has players on either side converging. Let's see who it hits. It hits the crowd.
It appeared that Carlisle and Kudelski both got a piece of that one.
They may have. Very often. That's what happens when you direct it towards the net. Anything can happen.
Back in. It's sent with 45 seconds to go. If they're tied, stay with us. There'll be sudden death overtime. Centering pass by Boschman cut off. Back up with it now is Fenton to slide it in deep. Jim Fox goes churning back in, but the first one there is Marois. Fox hooked at, but tries to play it further, though Carlisle is there. Mark Hardy in neutral ice with 20 seconds to go. Puck out of play, and the clock stops at 19.
6-6. Kind of expected. Mike, we mentioned earlier that the draft choices that the Los Angeles Kings have traded away over the years. Why don't we try and sneak those in?
Reggie Leach in 70. Rick Kehoe, 71. Schott, 72. Andre Savard, now coaching at Quebec, 73. Mario Tremblay, 74. Pierre Mondu, 75. Every year. Duguay, Bourque, Housley, Barrasso. Impressive list.
Well, there's that crowd around Glenn Healy.
He got the 2 guys up front, and it clicked off someone right in front of the goal, too. Jim Carson lifts. Ellett gloves. Steen sends it back in the final 10 seconds of regulation time. Duchesne pivoting. Advances it back up for Carson. But these 2 teams are going to go to overtime. 60 minutes have been played. The Jets in the period wound up with 5 shots. Through the first 18 minutes, they had only 1. But one of the 5 was good enough to force this overtime tie. We'll be back with sudden death overtime in just a moment. A dozen goals scored. They're even at 6.
feel comfortable taking my Nissan to just anybody. So I take it to my authorized Nissan dealer, where customer satisfaction is their #1 concern. Lloyd Wise Nissan's technicians will fix your car right the first time by installing genuine Nissan parts. For quality and custom fit, nobody beats their selection of genuine Nissan accessories.
Mention this TV offer and receive 15% off all parts and labor on any repair.
For prompt, reliable service and genuine Nissan parts, see Lloyd Wise Nissan in San Leandro.
Get spectacular savings at San Jose Camera and Video and find out why we're California's largest Minolta dealer. Minolta Maxim, the world's first autofocus SLR with over 20 interchangeable lenses, starting at just $249. And for the best prices and biggest selection of camcorders and VCRs, check San Jose Camera and Video inventory from among these famous names. Remember, San Jose Camera and Video with possibly the nation's lowest prices. Corner of Hamilton and Winchester, just off Highway 17.
If this game were in an art gallery, you'd look at it and say, well, it's not a Rembrandt, but the colors certainly catch your eyes. They certainly do. A couple of last-minute goals, and we have a 6-6 tie. With the game tied at 5, it looked like the LA Kings would come off with a victory when Bobby Carpenter passes to Jim Fox, who passes in the slot to Luke Robitaille. The Kings and their fans were celebrating 6-5 LA. But in the last minute of regulation time, on the power play, the Winnipeg Jets, who had a few power play goals already on the night, just keep shooting the puck. When Dave Ellett takes the shot, it's Laurie Boschman in front. Boschman gets credit for the goal, Ellett the assist, and we're going to overtime. Now, the Winnipeg Jets are dangerous in overtime this year. They are 3-0-1 in the extra session. The LA Kings have played 4 overtime games. They are 0-0-4, so they haven't won any, but they haven't lost any either. What will happen in overtime? Let's go back to the fabulous form and find out. Let's go back now to Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
All right, thank you, Tom. Howard Chuck is out of the box and available to play in sudden death overtime. Isn't it interesting, Bill? Had Dan Maloney the choice, he would have probably had Howard Chuck take that faceoff that Boschman won so cleanly, and then the play developed for Boschman to score. Now it is Mark Hardy tying up with Duncan. McLean is in, fighting with Nichols. McLean able to peel away. Skating with it to the slot. Little pass is off Jim Fox. Trying to work it along is Duchesne. He cancels with McLean, so it can be lifted by Fox onto Carpenter. Off Carlisle. Reddick to handle. Reddick has played in 2 overtime games this year, has won them both. This is Healy's first. Healy sets this one up behind. These are normally not won in the first minute. The tendency in the overtimes this year have been in the middle part of the overtime period. Minutes 2 and 3. Down to the ice, Glenn McBean gets the puck back and lifts it into the glove of Ellett. 1 minute gone in sudden death overtime as Fenton with a steal, but ahead with it comes Amel. Bothered all the way by Bourne, he's still got a shot on goal. Pivoting along with it is Larry Playfair. The big defenseman connects at center ice with Fenton. Flips one along that can't be handled by McKenna. Ellett is there, just through Bob Bourne, and along to Steen. Carrying it is Amel. And Amel moved in, but McBain already over and offside the call. 1 minute 20 gone in the sudden death period. The game is tied, of course, but at a lot of goals apiece. 6.
Well, Mike Murphy's willing to sit on the tie, at least for the time being. His second line out was the McKenna line, along with Bobby Bourne, far more defensive-oriented than his other line of Jimmy Carson and Dave Taylor and Luke Robitaille. That's the line that's out there now. But when you're in a pinch and you need somebody to check, he'll always go to the Bob Bourne line. This particular case, it's a coin toss. I mean, he has 3 lines that have been playing regularly tonight. You know he's going to just continue to rotate them, hope that one of them comes through.
From the tie-up, Robitaille ties his man, so ahead with it comes Hardy. Hardy drops it in deep, going back to get it is Mario Marois, spinning it along for Neufeld, and Neufeld lays it back out. Since overtime was introduced in 1983, the 2 players to have the most points in winning overtime games in regular season are Howard Chuck and McLean. They aren't out right now. Neufeld is the right winger on this Winnipeg unit, and he lofts it out. Hardy tries to spin it ahead. 3 minutes, 5 seconds to go, sudden death overtime. Neufeld lifts, Taylor knocks down, and they just nudge it by inches. Finally, Neufeld can recover, but only as far as the Kings' line. Neufeld and Robitaille both go down. And And Robitaille flings it, but to Barry. Across to Elliott. Then to Steen. Jousts with Hammond, and a chance moved ahead for Fox for the wrister. Casually blocked to the glass by Reddick, and it stays on the back of the goal, so there'll be a center ice faceoff to result. Paul Stewart just checking now with his linesman Mark Bynes on the decision on this one. 2 overtime goals this year for Dale Hawerchuk. We mentioned McLean. He is the most prolific of all NHL players since regular season overtime was introduced. Half a dozen overtime winners.
Yeah, they either come from him putting his head down and just, burying for the net, just trying to get in there as quickly as he can, or a great setup from Dale Hawerchuk. One thing about Hawerchuk, he just doesn't seem to react to pressure, and that's a sign of greatness that they all have. The Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky. Hawerchuk is no different. He doesn't react. He doesn't get the shakes when he gets in tight in an overtime situation.
Big face-off again, and Boschman and his Jets prevail, and it's Laurie Boschman just moving one in. Back to play it as Nichols. All right, now the Jets have out Hawerchuk and McLean. They bring out Steen to join them, but we get a whistle and stoppage of play across the way, and now Larry Playfair comes over to have a word with McLean.
McLean really took Bernie Nichols into the boards. Bernie looked as if he just wanted to flip it out of the zone, but he was so nonchalant, he flipped it into the air, so the Canes are going to be handling a face-off now inside their zone. But after the fact, as soon as he dumped it, that man, Paul McLean, simply creased Nichols into the boards.
Reddick tonight has stopped 23. It has been a division at the other end. Melanson was in for the first 5 goals, and yielding only 1 has been Glenn Healy. That one well off the mark. Brad Berry pinches, tries to get away from the chop of Carpenter. And a scrum along the boards results in a whistle, and play will be frozen, and once more it'll be a face-off near Healy. Boy, Larry Playfair has certainly put his body into this game tonight. Maybe he doesn't have the mobility that he really would want to have on that knee yet. You can see him favoring it sometimes, but that heart is there. You ever have any interest in letting your mustache grow to the lengths of McLean's?
You don't know how he eats.
Puck taken by Duchesne from the faceoff. And this time a critical defensive zone faceoff won by the Kings. Puck given right up for a shot on goal. Rebound, another save. Both times by Duncan, both times Healy able to make the play, and another scramble out in front. They poke away at it. And a stoppage of play.
There's the man that could have been the hero. Ian Duncan face down. Boy, he had 2 great chances at it. Here's the first one. There's one of those long passes. They insist on making those long passes. We're in overtime, guys. Wake up out there. See what happens? That long pass from behind the net. The Kings have been trying to do it all night. There's Duncan trying to capitalize on the broken play. By this time, it's a broken play. Here's the pass from Duchesne. All you can do if you're a coach is stand back and shake your head and say, why? Mike Murphy told me last week, he said, the thing I gripe about the most is not taking chances. Don't make risky plays when you don't have to. That was a perfect example of a risky play when they didn't really have to.
Absolutely, puck to the point. Marois the shot, smothered by Robitaille. Nice move on now to Dave Taylor. One-on-one opposite Carlisle. Taylor trying to go by his brush checked off by Carlisle, then hammered a second time. And still they scrap for it, and Carlisle able to lay it along to Marois. Down to a minute 40 left in sudden death overtime. Up the wing, breakaway, Smale, score! Doug Smale in sudden death overtime, and the Jets, who were down by 1, but scored in the last minute, and now have won the game with a minute 34 left in sudden death overtime, 7-6.
And he was all alone on the far side. Somebody obviously missed an assignment, but what usually happens, Mike, is if the winger doesn't have his check on the far side, someone is screaming like crazy to the defenseman that he's got a guy going wide behind him and to watch for him. Here's the pass all the way across. Nobody seemed to be able to cut it. See if this one goes between Healy's legs. Well, either between his legs or under the arm. Boy, breakdown after breakdown defensively, and it had to happen here in overtime. Well, he almost lost control of the puck.
And number 8, Randy Carlisle. Time to go 3:20
Doug Smale connects at 3:26 in overtime. 9th time that the Jets and the Kings have gone into overtime, and the 3 wins all belong to Winnipeg. 13 goals on the night, some flashy plays.
Well, the plot thickens now for Los Angeles. Vancouver's ahead of them. Winnipeg has moved 5 points ahead of them. Their next game is here against Winnipeg. If they're not careful, they can get buried in this division very quickly if Vancouver decides they're going to catch on fire, and if Winnipeg comes